Chapter 657, Mysterious Een Divine Shield. Seeing the golden flames, he immediately used his shocking trump card, the Mysterious Een Cave Finger. The Mysterious Een Grotto Heaven Finger was known as a top-notch heaven-grade divine power. With the addition of his fifth heavenly layer martial saint cultivation, one strike could destroy the world. Even if he couldn't kill the woman in black, he could at least block the golden flames. As long as he could get rid of the golden flame, he would be able to kill these people and obtain the empty spirit pearl. As for Lingtian, he was nowhere to be seen. He must have been killed in a single strike before being turned into nothingness by the raging flames. Chi. The black Een Grotto Heaven Finger pierced through the void and instantly arrived in front of Heaven Heart. The golden flames in Heaven Heart's hand also turned into a lotus flower and crashed towards the Heavenly Een Venerable's black Een Heavenly Finger. The space trembled as the two attacks collided. The golden flame trembled non-stop. The power of the Mysterious Een Grotto Heaven Finger was getting closer and closer, as if it wanted to disperse the golden flame. The fifth sky of the martial saint realm had shocking strength. Even when facing Jin Yen, he had the advantage. Seeing that his black Een Cave Heaven Finger had gained the upper hand, Dark Sky Knight revealed a sinister smile as if he saw a few people trembling in front of him. Heaven Heart and Heaven One panicked when they saw Jin Yen retreating. Even the terrifying golden flames were forced back, so they naturally panicked. There were two worlds and two levels between a martial supreme and a martial saint. Even if the golden flame could destroy the world, its master's cultivation was too low to make up for the difference in realm. The Mysterious Een Grotto Heaven Finger was already within 10 meters of the heart of the heavens, and he could feel the aura of death. Feeling the destruction and coldness of the Mysterious Een Cave Heaven Finger, he had no other choice at this moment. His eyes revealed a look of despair. Phew! At this moment, the air trembled. In the raging flames, a destructive sword intent soared into the sky. The raging flames exploded and a figure flew up. That familiar figure was dressed in white. Although his chest was covered in blood, he was completely unharmed. They were all shocked when they saw this figure appear. They had thought that Lingtian was dead, but he was now floating in the air. Everyone was shocked except Longda and the others. They were well aware of Lingtian's strength and means. No one in this world could kill him easily. Lingtian hovered in the air with a cold gaze. His shocking sword will filled the space and he stood proudly like a sharp sword between heaven and earth. The heavenly demon region had been shattered by the Heavenly Een Venerable's attack. The true dragon body barrier was also broken. However, there was still the limitless feather coat behind the true dragon body barrier. Furthermore, Lingtian had the flaming sacred body and the heavenly sword body. He had been tempered by the true dragon's chi and his physique was shockingly strong. Even a tier 8 demonic beast might not be stronger than him. Even though Heavenly Een Knight's attack was terrifying, most of it was blocked by Heavenly Demon Region and the true dragon body barrier, and a portion of it was blocked by Limitless Feather Coat. When the real attack landed on him, only 10 to 20% of it was left. With his physique, it was naturally easy for him to receive it. However, he hid in the flames and relied on the flaming sacred body to heal his injuries and stabilize his injuries. Seeing how terrifying the black Een Grotto Heaven Finger of Heavenly Een Venerable was, if Heavenly Een Venerable killed Heaven Heart, it would be troublesome to deal with Heavenly Een. If he joined forces with Heaven Heart now, he could defeat him. Heavenly Een Knight's cultivation wasn't as strong as Martial Saint Qingmi's. Even Martial Saint Qingmi's water will was defeated by Heaven Heart. Now that he had encountered Heavenly Een Venerable, but was restrained by his black Een Grotto Heaven Finger, there must be something wrong with his heart. He didn't want to face Heavenly Een Knight alone. He was ranked 9th among the 10 great martial saints, but he wasn't someone easy to deal with. The shocking sword intent wreaked havoc in the space. However, at that moment, Lingtian's aura changed. The shocking sword intent disappeared, but a stream of light appeared between his eyebrows. The stream of light disappeared and turned into a crystal-clear long sword. Lingtian's eyes turned serious as the Tianyu sword appeared before him. The Tianyu sword emitted a shocking pressure. It was the pressure of a saint weapon. This was the pressure of a supreme saint weapon. The sky was instantly suppressed by this pressure. The expression on Heavenly Yin Venerable's face kept changing. He did not expect Lingtian to be so strong. He did not die after one blow and was still so powerful. As the Tianyu sword spun, Lingtian's sword intent transformed into sword force. Instantly, the Tianyu sword burst out with 100-meter-long sword radiance. The sword radiance was shocking and Lingtian's figure disappeared as well. It was as if he had merged into the sword radiance. Heaven's sword unity. When Lingtian's figure landed, the sword radiance had already surpassed Venerable Tian Yin's and was slashing toward him. The shocking sword light brought with it a supreme sword aura. The sword aura caused the power of heaven and earth to change, and the expression on Venerable Tian Yin's face changed. He did not expect a martial emperor powerhouse to be able to control force in this world. Moreover, it was a sharp and overbearing sword force. While he was shocked, he revealed a helpless expression. Although the mysterious Yin Grotto Heaven Finger had the upper hand, it was impossible to kill Heaven Heart in a short period of time. Moreover, Lingtian's sword radiance had arrived in an instant. The entire process seemed to take a long time, but it was actually just a moment. Profound Yin Divine Shield. When Heavenly Yin Knight saw the sword light coming, he did not hesitate anymore. A trace of reluctance flashed across his eyes, and his face was filled with determination. He took out a drop of blood essence, and the blood essence burned in the air. Immediately, an exquisite shield appeared between his eyebrows, but the shield emitted a shocking pressure. With the dense Yin Qi pressure, even the pressure of the Tianyu sword felt insignificant in front of this shield. The experts present were all shocked and they saw this divine mysterious Yin shield. This was because this divine mysterious Yin shield was a true divine artifact like shield. With such a divine artifact as a defense, what other attacks and treasures could break through it? In an instant, the sword light had already struck down with supreme sword aura. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the sword ray ruthlessly struck the divine shield when it was unfolded. Between heaven and earth, destructive sword aura and sword intent wreaked havoc, and shocking gales tore through space. At this moment, Heaven Heart immediately ignited his primeval essence and his golden flame sword, reversing his advantage. The power of the mysterious Yin Grotto Heaven Finger and the golden flame were on par. Ding! With a soft sound, the profound Yin divine shield flashed and trembled. However, the divine shield was not destroyed. The sword radiance disappeared and Lingtian's figure appeared in the air. Blood was flowing out of his mouth and his hand was trembling as he held the Tianyu sword. This time, the integration of the heaven and sword didn't use the will of the way of metal. It was beyond his imagination to encounter a divine artifact's defensive shield. The attack did not defeat the other party. Instead, it affected his own injuries. His injuries were further aggravated, and his veins were in a mess. Not bad, the turtle shell is very hard. Lingtian's face was deathly pale but the smile on his lips remained. At this moment, he looked miserable. His divine sense moved, and the Tianyu sword was put away. He looked coldly at Heavenly Yin Knight. At this moment it was difficult for Heavenly Yin Knight to back down. He could only rely on the mystic Yin divine shield to defend. He had to accelerate the mystic Yin Grotto Heaven Finger to escape from the Golden Flame's attack while guarding against Lingtian. A super martial saint powerhouse was really depressed at this point. Moreover, he was being restrained by two martial emperors. It was really embarrassing. Is a divine artifact that amazing? Lingtian replied indifferently. He wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth and channeled all his true essence. The sudden change in his aura wasn't sword will or will of the great path. Instead, it was a saber intent that could destroy the world. The saber had the power to split mountains and had the power to press forward. Saber intent was destructive intent. Lingtian's divine consciousness moved and the Empyrean Terminus Emperor saber appeared in his hand from his dantian. A shocking divine weapon's pressure burst forth. A true divine artifact, a super divine artifact. Compared to the mystic divine shield, it was many levels and grades stronger. The world trembled uneasily in front of the divine artifact's pressure. A divine artifact. Super divine artifact. Tian Xian, and Heavenly Knight exclaimed when they felt the divine artifact's pressure in the air. His heart was already in a daze. It was enough for a martial emperor to have a heaven-defying supreme-grade saint weapon. Why did he have a super divine weapon? This divine artifact was definitely not a low-level one. It was definitely one of those rare divine artifacts. While they were exclaiming, Tian and Tian Xian were excited. At the very least, Lingtian was their temporary partner. At the very least, they had to kill Venerable Tian first. The stronger Lingtian was, the happier they were. Lingtian looked at the extreme overlord saber in his hand as the saber intent in his entire body revolved. Destructive vital essence surged into the extreme overlord saber while the saber intent gave rise to the momentum of a divine weapon. Tyrannical blade art, desolate 10 consecutive slashes. With a light shout, the extreme overlord saber in his hand slashed down fiercely. The first move of the tyrant sword art, desolate 10 consecutive strikes, was already a top-notch heaven-grade divine power. Coupled with a divine weapon like the Heaven Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber, the void shattered with one strike. In the air, 10 saber lights overlapped and slashed down, splitting the space into 2 halves. Kacha. 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 10 destructive saber flares appeared to be 10, but there was actually only one when they struck down. The overlapping of the 10 saber flares was like the power of 1,000 waves. The Darkeen divine shield kept exploding, and Venerable Tian spat out mouthfuls of blood. Ah! With a loud roar, the mysterious heavenly finger burst out fiercely, instantly repelling Jin Yen. Heaven Heart was thrown out and he spat out a mouthful of blood. On her exquisite and perfect face, there were traces of blood at the corner of her mouth, making her look extremely miserable. At the same time, the desolate 10 consecutive strikes broke through the defense of the mysterious dark divine shield. The mysterious dark divine shield was a divine weapon, but it could not withstand the heavenly extreme tyrant emperor saber and the desolate 10 consecutive strikes. It quickly turned into its original form. The last blade light landed on Heavenly Knight's body and he was thrown out. Lingtian's body swayed as his true essence was depleted. Blood trickled out from the corner of his mouth. The sky instantly quieted down. The mysterious cave heaven finger disappeared, the golden flame disappeared, and the desolate 10 consecutive strikes disappeared. Chapter 658, Killing Heavenly Knight. Heavenly Knight was thrown 10 miles away before he managed to stabilize himself. A dignified martial saint super powerhouse was forced to such a state. Grand Moon Venerable knew that the Darkeen divine shield could not withstand Lingtian's final attack. It was impossible for a divine weapon to defend against a super divine weapon and divine power. Therefore, he decisively used all his mental energy and true essence to repel the golden flames. This way, even if he was injured, he could still defeat an opponent and not be suppressed by the two of them. Lingtian suffered a backlash after injuring Venerable Tian in one blow. However, his confidence was boosted. As long as he could injure his opponent, he would not be a god and he could defeat it as well. Continue. Today, it's either you die or I die. Lingtian's eyes shone brightly as he glared coldly at Venerable Tian. His aura soared into the sky. He didn't seem to be injured, but he knew that it was the end of the attack. The more he did, the more afraid he was. Even though Lingtian was a martial supreme, his strength was so terrifying that even a supreme martial saint like him was afraid of him. Junior, you killed the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom. If you still dare to resist, you'll only bring disaster to your family. Today, I'll kill you and then kill your family. A sinister expression appeared on Tian Knight's face. Although there were not many outsiders here, it was still embarrassing for a super powerhouse like him to be defeated by a martial emperor powerhouse. Li Lingtian's attack had left a shadow in his heart. If he did not kill this young man, he would have a heart demon. Good, good, very good. If I don't destroy Moonsong Kingdom and kill you, I'm not fit to be a human. The 5 elements are mutually reinforcing and restraining each other. Ice and fire are incompatible. Today, I will let ice and fire be compatible and defy the heavens. Ice, fire, 9 heavens, 4th heaven, forbidden. Li Lingtian's killing intent had reached its peak. He hated those who threatened his family and loved ones the most. He could be indifferent about other matters, but he had to eliminate those who threatened his loved ones. His body was injured to the extreme, and he could not fight anymore. However, he would definitely not let this heavenly knight stay. The true essence in his entire body was circulated to the limit. The true dragon body protection protected his body. The limitless feather coat was also activated, and the heavenly demon domain was displayed. All kinds of defenses in his body were activated at this moment. The flaming sacred body and the ice soul martial soul were activated. He was like a demon lord floating in the air. His hair was floating in the air, and the blood-red rune between his eyebrows was even more dazzling and demonic. Heaven Heart and the others could feel Li Lingtian's anger. This was the first time they had experienced Li Lingtian's ultimate move, and they understood Li Lingtian's personality. Previously, no matter what happened, he did not realize that Li Lingtian had the chance to kill him. However, now that Venerable Tian threatened his family, Li Lingtian had the chance to kill him. He must be very protective of his family. Li Lingtian extended his hands. Deep blue ice appeared in one palm while purple flames appeared in the other. 2 extremes appeared in the space. Suddenly, a destructive aura erupted in the space, making people feel the threat of death. Since you're courting death, I'll kill you today even if my cultivation falls. Sky Venerable did not know what kind of heaven-defying move Li Lingtian was about to unleash. However, when he saw the 2 strange flames and ice, he was shocked and did not dare to be careless. It was already too late to regret provoking this person that he should not have provoked. He had to kill him now. Otherwise, he would be a future threat. Perhaps his old life would be handed over to this young man. The mysterious heaven annihilation, the true body of the king of hell, annihilates all living beings. Heavenly Knight muttered to himself coldly. He circulated his true essence and suppressed his injuries. Instantly, his injuries were gone. His cultivation base had also increased tremendously, from the 5th sky of the Martial Saint Realm to the peak of the 5th sky of the Martial Saint Realm. At the same time, his entire person changed rapidly. It was as if Hades had possessed him. The destructive profound Qi filled the space, and the space trembled continuously. With a wave of his hand, he swung it down at Li Lingtian like a mountain. His palm was covered in a layer of green radiance that gave off an uncomfortable feeling. A simple strike caused the space to tremble and the earth to collapse. At that moment, Li Lingtian's frosty qi and blazing flames were circulating to their maximum capacity. He quickly put his hands together. Heaven Heart's eyes were filled with shock. A type of heaven burning raging flames was enough to destroy everything. There was also an extreme cold energy that was enough to freeze the entire world. It was the presence of 2 types of destructive fear that had appeared on Li Lingtian alone. She had never expected that Li Lingtian would combine the 2 extremes together. Was this not suicide? However, she understood that Li Lingtian was not a fool. He was not seeking death either. He was combining the 2 extremes with his ability and confidence. As expected, the moment his hands joined together, the aura of death, destruction, and extinction appeared between heaven and earth. The 3 auras fused together and a pillar of light appeared in Li Lingtian's hand in an instant. The aura of death and destruction between heaven and earth gathered together. The void trembled. The heavenly fire mountain range had been razed to the ground. The beam of light ignored the distance between them and struck towards the venerable Tian. Wherever it passed, the space was pierced. When he saw this situation, Heavenly Knight's expression changed drastically. His eyes revealed a despair that he had never seen before. Other than a divine weapon, a martial emperor powerhouse had a skill that made him feel so hopeless. Tian Xian and Tian Yi's expressions kept changing. They knew that the other party hadn't used his full strength at the start. Otherwise, no one would have been able to block this destructive beam of light. Ice and fire countered each other and collided with each other to the extreme. However, when the two extremes were fused, the power that erupted was tens of millions of times stronger. Such power would even cause a god to lose a layer of skin. The two attacks collided. There was a brief silence between heaven and earth. However, after the short silence, there was a destructive explosion. The entire space was constantly shattered and destroyed. Tian Yi, Tian Xian, and the others, as well as Long De and the others, hurriedly activated their defenses and flew into the distance. At this time, when the space collapsed, even a martial saint powerhouse would disappear into thin air. At this moment, the light pillar burst out with a shocking 5-colored light. Heavenly Een Night became the center of the light pillar's attack. The pillar of light exploded, forming a ball of light. The light quickly swept out, destroying everything in its path. Ah! A blood-curdling scream resounded through the heavens and the earth as Heavenly Een Night was destroyed in the halo. His entire body was penetrated by the destructive halo. His entire body was covered in destructive ice and fire chi. After the extreme ice flame and the destructive and violent flame fused, they continuously destroyed his body. Pft! Pft! Lingtian's body fell toward the heavenly fire mountain range. At this moment, he no longer had any true essence left in his body and his veins were all severed. His entire body was covered in blood, and his body was already severely damaged. If it was any other martial emperor or martial saint, they would have died countless times. However, he still fought with the 9th-ranked Heavenly Een Night in the end and used his final trump card, the Ice, Fire, 9th Heaven Taboo. Under such circumstances, even a god would die. Young Master. At that moment, Long De, who was watching Li Lingtian fall from a distance, shouted out in anger. With a wave of his hand, more than 30 martial saints flew towards the venerable Tian Yin, bombarding him with destructive attacks. Long De's figure flashed as he transformed into a flood dragon. In the blink of an eye, he was not far away from Li Lingtian and caught him. Heavenly Een Night was already dead, but he had been destroyed by the attacks of more than 30 martial saints. His entire body had long disappeared. Let's go. Long De brought Li Lingtian along as they swiftly flew through the air. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared from the heavenly fire mountain range. On the sky fire mountain range, Tianyi, Tianxin, and the others were all extremely shocked as they watched the figure disappear into the horizon. This would be the most legendary battle they had ever seen. A martial emperor had defied the heavens countless times and defeated all the other powerhouses before he was injured in the end. This time, hundreds of martial sovereigns and hundreds of martial saints had fallen in this place. Even 4/5 sky martial saints had been defeated by the 4-symbol sky array. The 9th-ranked martial saint, Heavenly Een Night, had also vanished into thin air. That unyielding figure was forever left in their hearts, leaving behind that heaven-defying and unrestrained figure. The magical and destructive music, the heaven-defying will of the 5 elements, the domineering stars in the 9 heavens, the destructive sword will and the heavenly sword merging into one, the unparalleled desolate 10 consecutive slashes, and finally the peerless ice/fire/9 heavens. All of this was the charm of a peerless monster, a legend that made all the experts in the world admire and envy. In the heavenly fire mountain range, the raging flames gradually disappeared. The sky fire mountain range had completely disappeared and become history. However, this place had witnessed the birth of a legend. The whereabouts of the empty spirit pearl were unknown, and Soul Sky, Tianxin, and the others left. No one knew what had happened here. Only after a long time did the rumors about the Sky Fire Mountain range spread, shocking the world. Long De led Li Lingtian and the group quickly left the Heavenly Fire Mountain range and flew toward Qjianji Xian. The group of them hurried through the night and finally arrived at the Qjng Xian Imperial Palace after 6 days. Halfway through, Lingtian used a miraculous healing pill to protect his injuries. However, as time passed, his injuries worsened. 6 days later, General Long sent Lingtian to Yuran Palace. Following that, he led his subordinates out of the Imperial Palace and began to do his own thing. He understood Lingtian's strength. As long as he did not vanish into thin air, he would not fall. This was because Lingtian had the heavenly sword body and the flaming sacred body. He cultivated the true dragon body barrier and various heaven-defying sacred scriptures. Huangfu Yuyan and the rest could not help but feel upset when they saw Lingtian's expression. However, they did not dare to cry. They did not want Lingtian to worry, so they quickly brought him to the practice room. Tang Qingyue and the others used their own true essence to perform dual cultivation to help Lingtian organize his meridians. The others were waiting outside, all of them extremely worried. Chapter 659, Family of the Divine Continent. Aunt, when do you think Imperial Uncle will recover? Xianyuan Xingxing held on to Ji Yi's hand and looked up to ask him. She was originally cultivating with her aunts, but she saw Long De and the others send Lingtian back. They were all shocked and saddened by Lingtian's grievous injuries. Xianyuan Xingxing felt the same way. She knew that her uncle was injured because of her and because he wanted to fight for the empty spirit pearl for her. She felt extremely upset. It's fine. Your imperial uncle is only slightly injured. He'll be fine after recuperating for a while. Ji Yi shook his head and comforted Xianyuan Xingxing. She was not confident that Lingtian's injury this time was more serious than ever before. They were well aware of how many powerhouses Lingtian had killed and how many powerhouses he had battled with. Thinking of the tragic scene at that time, they were all shocked. A martial monarch realm expert was facing hundreds of martial monarch realm experts and hundreds of martial saint realm experts. There were also a few fifth heaven martial saints who had joined forces. There was even one of the 10 great martial saints among them. If a martial emperor were to encounter any one of these powerhouses, he would vanish into thin air. However, Lingtian had managed to kill all of them before returning with the empty spirit pearl. Although he was severely injured, Lingtian had shocked the entire Moonsong kingdom. The news of this incident was sealed and the army was not informed. Otherwise, it would affect the morale of the army. It's all Qingqing's fault. If Qingqing didn't have the empty spirit body, Imperial Uncle wouldn't have taken the risk to fight for the empty spirit pearl. Now, he's even so heavily injured. If Imperial Uncle's injuries aren't healed, Qingqing won't be able to live either. She'll accompany Imperial Uncle. Tears streamed down Xianyuan Qingqing's face. Even though she was still young, she knew how much Lingtian loved her. He was willing to fight against the world's heaven-defying powerhouses all by himself for her. In her heart, if her imperial uncle were to die, she would follow him to the underground world to accompany him. Silly girl, don't spout nonsense. Your imperial uncle is only injured. Remember, don't spread this. Xianyuan Yingying heard Xianyuan Qingqing's words and scolded softly. She understood how powerful Lingtian was. As long as he did not die, there would be no problem. Qingping, Xiao Xiao, Lu Min, Xianyuan Qingqing, Xianyuan Yingying, Little White, and Ji Yi were all waiting in the courtyard outside. In the practice room, Tang Qingyue and the others used their true essence. With no one joining hands, they combined their true essence and performed dual cultivation to slowly help Lingtian repair his meridians. Once Lingtian's meridians were repaired, he would be able to use true dragon qi to temper his body and heal his injuries quickly. Blood trickled down the corner of Lingtian's mouth as he sat cross-legged. He allowed Tang Qingyue and the others to inject their ethereal force into his body, repairing his broken meridians bit by bit. As time passed, the girls' exquisite and perfect faces were already covered in sweat, but they did not dare to have the slightest thought of stopping. This was a critical moment. If they stopped now, not only would all their previous efforts go to waste, Lingtian's injuries might even worsen. Pfft. Finally, after 2 hours, Lingtian spat out a mouthful of blood. Although their faces were pale, they were much better than before. Seeing this situation, the girls were relieved. Now that his meridians had been repaired, Lingtian had to rely on his own cultivation method to slowly repair them. Even if they were to perform dual cultivation, there were still some meridians that they could not repair. They could only rely on themselves. After the blood was spat out, it meant that the injury had stabilized. He just needed to slowly recuperate. Following that, Lingtian began to circulate his cultivation technique and the heaven and earth reincarnation art. His vital essence slowly circulated through his meridians as Tang Qingyue and the others left the room. "Aunt Qingyue, how is Imperial Uncle?" Qing ran up to Tang Qingyue and asked anxiously. The other girls were also looking at Tang Qingyue and the others, curious about Lingtian's condition. "Your Imperial Uncle can heal himself now. I believe he will recover after some time. Lingtian's injuries this time are too severe. It seems like he needs to recuperate for a period of time." Tang Qingyue whispered to Xianyuan Qingxing before turning to Xianyuan Yingying and the others to explain Lingtian's situation. "We got the details from Longda. Big Brother used the heavenly demonic zither to kill hundreds of martial emperors and nearly 100 martial saints. In the end, he performed the third note of the 8 notes of the heavenly demon and suffered internal injuries. Among all the experts, only 6 or 7 managed to escape. The rest were all killed. However, there were 4 fifth sky martial saints who joined hands to cast the 4-symbol sky array. The 4-symbol sky array was fighting against Big Brother's 9 sky stars. The 9 sky stars destroyed the 4-symbol sky formation of the 4 fifth sky martial saints and almost killed them. However, they let them go in the end. Ge spoke in a serious tone. Tang Qingyue and the others had entered the practice room to help Lingtian repair his meridians as soon as they saw him seriously injured. Therefore, they did not know the actual details. General Long had told Ge and the others some of the details before leaving the palace. Now, Ge was telling Tang Qingyue and the others. What? He used the third note of the 8 notes of the sky demon and killed hundreds of martial emperors and nearly 100 martial saints. This guy is really something. One has to know that with his current cultivation, he can't completely control the third note of the 8 notes of the heavenly demon. He even used the 9 heavens stars later on. Isn't this adding to his injuries? Huangfu Yuyan exclaimed. Tang Qingyue and the others were also shocked. They did not expect Lingtian to do something so heaven-defying as to fight against the world's powerhouses all by himself. Killing all the experts, just imagine the situation at that time, it must have been extremely tragic. The scene would surely shock the powerhouses of the world. It was a pity that they did not witness it and they were worried about Lingtian. Fortunately, Lingtian was only injured and had returned. Big Brother let 4 fifth sky martial saints go, but their cultivation bases were sealed by him. When the empty spirit pearl was obtained, one of the 10 great martial saints, Dark Sky Venerable, appeared. Dark Sky Venerable pursued him to the heavenly fire mountains because Lingtian had killed the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom. Heavenly E Knight injured Big Brother with 1 strike and sent him into the flames. The martial saint behind him wanted to kill Tian Xian of the Tian family in the Divine Continent. Tian Xian controlled the sky screen golden flame and the two of them fought. Big Brother used the heavenly sword unity at the critical moment, but honored Sir Tian Yin had a mystic Yin divine shield. Big Brother suffered a backlash, but Big Brother used Desolation 10 consecutive strikes to injure honored Sir Tian Yin and save Heaven Heart. In the end, Venerable Tian Yin used his destructive means. Big Brother had no choice but to use the 4th heaven of ice/fire/9 heavens to kill Venerable Tian Yin. However, he also suffered damage from the destruction. Ge slowly explained the general situation, as if she was there at the time. Qingling and the others were stunned when they heard that. Lingtian's techniques were the most heaven-defying of all. Every divine power was enough to destroy the world, but he had used them all this time. Looks like that Tianxin is pretty. He actually let the four of them off under such circumstances. Huangfu Yuyan smiled. Although Longde didn't say anything about Tianxin, they knew that since Tianxin was the successor of the Tian family, she should be pretty. Perhaps Li Lingtian had thought of something at that time. Otherwise, he would not have stopped and let the four of them off under such circumstances. Sister Yuyan, you are from the Divine Continent. Do you know the situation of the Tian family? Tang Zimeng looked at Huangfu Yuyan curiously. She didn't expect that someone from the Divine Continent would come to the Mystic Continent. She was really not simple. The Divine Continent has a total of 10 great forces, 10 great families, and mysterious existences like the Immortal Palace. I'm not sure about many of them. I was always cultivating in the past, so I didn't know much about the Divine Continent. However, the Tian family of the Divine Continent is also one of the 10 great families. Each of the 10 great families of the Divine Continent is heaven-defying and has a martial god in each family. Lord Tianmu is one of the 10 martial gods. When we go to the Divine Continent, we'll understand what a true heaven for the strong is. There are as many strong as clouds in that place. The strong survive, and the weak have no dignity. I know. The Tian family has 2 geniuses. One is called Tian Xian and the other is called Tian Yi. The one he met should be Tian Xian. Huangfu Yuyan said slowly. She had always been cultivating in her family and did not understand the Divine Continent at all. She only knew some basic things. There were too many powerhouses in that place. Otherwise, she would not have chosen Qingzhou to train her heart and eventually met Li Lingtian. Looks like the Divine Continent is a pretty good place. The corners of Shun Mei's mouth curled into a smile as her charming face revealed a contemplative look. You guys stay outside and watch. We'll go back and recuperate. If there's anything, callous. Tang Qingyue said to Qingping and the others before they headed back to their own rooms. They had exhausted a lot of their energy by helping Li Lingtian heal his wounds. They were both physically and mentally exhausted. They were still worried about Li Lingtian's injuries, but they needed to rest and recover their cultivation base so that they could deal with any unnecessary troubles. Xianyuan Yingying and the others were in the courtyard. They would check on Li Lingtian from time to time but did not dare to disturb him. Just like that, the girls took turns to take care of Li Lingtian. However, Li Lingtian had been adjusting his breathing by himself and was not affected. After 3 days, Li Lingtian opened his eyes. The meridians in his body had been repaired but his injuries were still severe. It would take some time for him to recover to his peak condition. On this day, Li Lingtian called Little White in. Big brother. Xiao Bai came to Li Lingtian's bedside and sat on it before calling out softly. I'm going to enter the Divine Dragon Ring to cultivate. You know what to do. Don't bother about the matters outside. Let them cause trouble. Only in the end will we know who is loyal. Don't tell anyone about my situation. Let them guess and make their own choice. Li Lingtian said seriously as he looked at Xiao Bai. There was no secret between the two of them. Naturally, they could be considered as one person because it was a friendly contract. As long as one of them died, the other would also suffer a destructive blow. He always told Little White everything he needed to know. Besides, Little White could control the Divine Dragon Ring. At the very least, she could use the true dragon Qi to open the Divine Dragon Ring. Even if they were to encounter some heaven-defying calamity, Little White would be able to escape with Tang Qingyue and the others. Chapter 660, Test 1, I know what to do. Brother, don't worry and cultivate. If anything happens, I'll inform you. I'll tell Sister Yuyan and the others not to worry. Xiao Bai said earnestly. To her, Li Lingtian was not only her brother but also her parent. Everything was taught by Li Lingtian. Therefore, she had deep feelings for Li Lingtian. Otherwise, she would have assumed Li Lingtian's appearance after her transformation. This was her subconscious. Now that Li Lingtian was injured, she naturally had to take responsibility for his recuperation. Alright, I believe that Xiao Bai is the best. Li Lingtian smiled and passed the divine dragon ring to Little White with his divine consciousness. Then, he entered the divine dragon ring. In fact, he was also the ruler in the divine dragon ring. He just didn't want the divine dragon ring to fall into the hands of others. That would make him feel uneasy. After Li Lingtian entered the divine dragon ring, Little White left the room with the divine dragon ring. After telling them about Li Lingtian, they were relieved to hear that Li Lingtian had entered the divine dragon ring to cultivate. This meant that Li Lingtian was confident. It was more painful to regulate one's breathing in the divine dragon ring than outside, but the speed of recovery was extremely fast. Moreover, it was also extremely beneficial to the improvement of one's cultivation. That's good too. The news of Ling Tian's injury will definitely spread throughout the entire Moonsong kingdom. At that time, the countless armies and the supreme experts will have their own thoughts. This is the time to test those troops and experts. As long as they are truly loyal, they won't leave at this time. Tang Qingyue replied calmly. Although not many people knew about Li Lingtian's injury, news about him spread quickly. Of course, the news would soon spread to the army. This was something that some people with intentions wanted to see the most. They did not mind being the instigator, which was why Li Lingtian made such an arrangement. That's right. There are two benefits to his arrangement. Firstly, it's to test those who are disloyal. Secondly, it's to send a signal to his subordinates that no matter what, he's the strongest and no one can defeat him. Under any circumstances, he will never die. In the future, this signal will always take root in everyone's hearts. Huangfu Yuyan nodded. Since Li Lingtian had made such arrangements, they would not have to worry about the outside world. They did not care anyway. As long as Li Lingtian was not in danger, it did not matter if they wanted to conquer the world or not. Even if there was a huge commotion outside, they wouldn't care. During this period of time, we have to cultivate well. Even if we can't become husbands' helpers, we don't want to become husbands' burden. Shun Mei said seriously. Their cultivation was already not bad. They had already reached the 9th level of the Martial Emperor realm and were only one step away from the Martial Honor realm. Once they broke through, they would be able to become Supreme Realm martial artists. By then, their abilities would have improved significantly and Li Lingtian would have less to worry about them. Oh right, little sister Yingying, when are you going to become big brother Lingtian's wife? At that time, we'll truly have one more sister. Tang Zimeng smiled at Xianyuan Yingying and teased her. The other girls looked at Xianyuan Yingying and laughed. It was the first time they had smiled in the past few days. Li Lingtian's expression was heavy after he was injured. Now that Li Lingtian's injuries had stabilized, he only needed to cultivate in the divine dragon ring for a period of time. Naturally, they felt much more relaxed. Besides, they were all girls, so it was only natural that they could not help but laugh and cheer. All of you are laughing at me. I naturally want to become Big Brother Ling Tian's wife, but not now. Xianyuan Yingying felt extremely shy when she saw all her sisters laughing at her. She was an inexperienced young girl. When she was teased like this, she would naturally feel shy, even if it was between sisters. However, she let go of him after that. They were all good sisters together, so she naturally understood these sisters. If you were shy, they would laugh at you even more. Since they would be sisters of the same husband in the future, she was not afraid of anything since there was no one else here. Are you still shy? Huangfu Yuyan said with a smile as she gently knocked Xianyuan Yingying's head. Following that, the girls arranged for them to take turns cultivating. Although they did not have to pay attention to the outside world, they still had to put on an act and pay attention to the situation outside so that they could inform Li Lingtian. The Yuran Palace Hall was still very quiet. All the girls were cultivating normally, and there was nothing unusual about it. No one could tell that something was wrong, because nothing seemed to have happened in the Yuran Palace. Outside, it was just as Li Lingtian had expected. In less than half a month, the news had spread throughout Moonsong Kingdom. Not many people knew about the ethereal pearl that had appeared in Yinfeng Nation's Heavenly Fire County. However, after the incident in the Sky Fire Mountain Range, the truth was revealed. The empty spirit pearl had appeared in the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. It was a supreme treasure, and martial emperors and martial saints had gone to fight for it. However, something that shocked the entire kingdom happened in the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. The first prince of the kingdom had been killed, the empty spirit pearl had appeared in the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range, hundreds of martial emperors, hundreds of martial saints, a few fifth sky martial saints, Martial Saint Qingmi, and the ninth Heavenly Yin Knight. However, only a few of these experts managed to escape in the end. Even Martial Saint Qingmi and the 4 fifth Heaven martial saints had retreated. Most of the other martial emperors and martial saints had died, and only a few had escaped. That powerhouse was none other than Qing Xian's young emperor Lingtian. He had single-handedly killed hundreds of martial emperors and over 100 martial saints. He defeated the 5th Sky Martial Saint who had joined hands to cast the 4-symbol Sky Array, killed the Heavenly Yin Knight, and finally obtained the empty spirit pearl to leave the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. The Heavenly Fire Mountain Range was destroyed and leveled. One could imagine how fierce the battle was. Furthermore, there were countless experts who witnessed the destruction of the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. They had also witnessed the scene of destruction. In the end, Lingtian managed to kill Venerable Tian Yin, but he was also severely injured by destruction. He almost died and was taken away by his subordinates. His fate was unknown. According to the description of the powerhouse at that time, Lingtian was most likely dead. This news shocked the kingdom. A 5th Heaven martial emperor had used a divine power to kill all the powerhouses. Even one of the 10 great martial saints, Heavenly Yin Knight, was killed. What kind of concept was this? Even if Lingtian was seriously injured and died, it was enough for him to be proud. However, when this news reached the Qing Xian Kingdom and the Carefree Empire, it immediately caused a huge commotion. Lingtian was a heaven-defying figure, but there was no news of him after he was injured. Could he have really fallen? After all, Lingtian was the soul of the army. Without Lingtian, the army would be useless and would be destroyed eventually. For a moment, the countless experts and soldiers in the army were in disarray. However, Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others ignored him and did not go out to consolidate their morale. This was because they knew that Lingtian's ability would not allow him to perish. There must be a reason why Lingtian did not send Longda to deliver the order at this time. It was also to test the loyalty of the powerhouses under him. As time passed, the army became more and more chaotic. Gradually, countless experts and armies left the army. Even some martial saints began to leave the army and seek refuge in other countries. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others ignored him. If they wanted to leave, they would leave. He would not try to stop them, but he felt sad for those who left. They would regret it even if Lingtian did not deal with them. The army of Qing Xian and the experts from the 3 legions left. Immediately, the morale of the entire army fell, and a third of the experts from the 3 legions left. At this moment, all the other countries had also reorganized their armies and prepared to launch a counterattack against Qing Xian. The army that had lost their morale was instantly defeated, leaving only half of the 3 legions. The 3 legions and millions of soldiers had also retreated back to Qjianji Xian, trying their best to consolidate the country. However, the countless soldiers and the other countries had taken advantage of the situation and surrounded Qing Xian. 10 million soldiers were at the city gates. This was just like how the 6 dynasties attacked Qing Xian half a year ago. However, the current Qing Xian kingdom was many times stronger than before. However, the morale of the army was many times weaker. Basically, there was no morale at all. Princess, the army is outside the city. How is the young master's situation? Xianyuan Bailing and Xianyuan Ancient City came to the Yuran Palace Hall and bowed respectfully to Xianyuan Yingying. To them, even if the Qing Xian kingdom was destroyed, they wouldn't care. However, this place was the property of the Xianyuan family. With the young master and the princess here, it would be difficult to explain to the family if anything happened. That was why he came to ask Xianyuan Yingying. Don't bother about these things. Do what you need to do. Xianyuan Yingying waved her hand and said indifferently. Her entire body emitted the aura of a superior. This was an innate aura that a princess of a family should have. This subordinate understands. If princess has no other instructions, this subordinate will take his leave first. The ancient city of Xianyuan suddenly understood something. He glanced at Xianyuan Yingying and left. Go ahead. Xianyuan Yingying said indifferently. Her tone was still the same as before. This subordinate will take his leave. The ancient Xianyuan city hurriedly bowed and gave the Xianyuan mausoleum a look before quickly bowing and leaving. The few of them left the Yuran palace, but they were still puzzled. They looked at the ancient Xianyuan city. Young master is in closed-door cultivation. He should be fine. This time, young master must be deliberately taking advantage of this opportunity to test the people below. As the ancient Xianyuan city spoke, the few of them understood what was going on. Their worries were relieved and they were even more excited. Lingtian's incident had shaken the kingdom. He had killed the 10 great martial saints, hundreds of martial saints, and hundreds of other martial saints. With such strength, who else could threaten Qing Xian? As long as Lingtian did not have any problems, he would be able to bring Qing Xian, which was also the Xiaoyao dynasty, to its peak. Chapter 661, Lingtian's breakthrough. As usual, the people in the Qing Xian imperial palace were preparing for battle. The entire southern peak city was once again filled with the prospect of a great war. However, they were not very confident in their preparations for the war this time. After all, Lingtian had provoked countless countries and now, countless countries were attacking Qing Xian. The 3 legions, 500,000 soldiers were on the city walls, and the rest were ready to fight. The 10 million strong army of the 10 countries gave off a shocking aura. Xianyuan bailing, let's see what Qing Xian can do. Without Lingtian, what else can you do? It's not too late to surrender now. The king of Bingleng shouted loudly with a smile on his face. Although he was shouting for the Xianyuan mausoleums to submit, he didn't have the slightest intention of asking the Xianyuan mausoleums to submit. The 10 million strong army had an imposing manner, so they naturally didn't care about the army of Qing Xian that didn't have any fighting spirit. If it was in the past, when a country attacked Qing Xian, he would really want Qing Xian to submit to him. After all, they were middle-class and upper-class countries. This time, there were 12 medium-sized nations and 2 upper-class nations. With such a heaven-defying alliance, even if Qing Xian's Lingtian was still around, they were confident that they could kill him. Haha. Haha. Bai Wujian, are you going to the Bingleng kingdom to look down on our Qing Xian kingdom? If you quit now, I can save your life. Xianyuan Bailing laughed loudly. His expression was calm, and he did not look like he was being attacked by an army. The powerhouses from more than a dozen countries were puzzled by this. They shared the same thought. Could Lingtian still be around? Even if Lingtian was still around, his 3 major legions had almost disintegrated and his millions of troops had been scattered. They were no match for the dozen or so countries. If Lingtian was here, he would not have let the morale of the troops below him fall. Now, even if the army was intact and Lingtian was still around, he would not be a match for the dozen nations. Xianyuan Bailing, are we afraid of the empty city tactic? Even if Lingtian was still around, he would still be killed this time. Jin Fenglai, the king of Liaoyu state, saw that the other armies were wavering and said loudly. If the morale of the army wavered, even if the army won, it would be a miserable victory. Then let's give it a try. Even if my Qing Xian kingdom is destroyed, don't even think about having it easy. Xianyuan Bailing spoke calmly. His expression did not change, but his tone was no longer as overbearing as before. The change in his expression and tone made countless powerhouses realize that Lingtian was no longer around. Kill, kill. Kill, kill. Seeing this, the army began to attack the city. Qing Xian had a defensive formation that was close to the divine level. The other countries naturally understood that he had already found a way to deal with it. In Tianshui, a powerhouse at the fifth sky of the martial saint realm took out a set of strange formation flags. Mysterious Sky 9 Killing Formation. After the fifth sky martial saint expert took out the array flag, he immediately activated it. Immediately, a destructive aura erupted between heaven and earth. 1,000-meter-wide circle of light kept spinning, and the spiritual qi between heaven and earth kept condensing. Swoosh. Swoosh. At this moment, the powerful defensive formation of the Qing Xian kingdom began to tremble. Lingtian's defense was drained, and without the nourishment and enhancement of spirit qi, he began to tremble rapidly. Seeing this situation, the Qing Xian army was disheartened. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the entire southern peak city trembled, and the ground continued to collapse. The light circle of the formation flag exploded with a destructive attack and ruthlessly hit the defensive formation of Qing Xian. Gotcha! The formation shook violently and finally collapsed. Kill them! Kill them! Kill them! The defense was broken, and the armies of the 14 kingdoms charged forward like a tide. Instantly, the destructive attacks in the air collided. The world trembled and destroyed at this moment, and space shattered. Kill, kill! The deafening cries of war rang out, and the army of 10 million soldiers was like a ferocious beast that wanted to devour Qing Xian. In the sky, hundreds of martial saints were gathered. Their eyes were all fixed on Qing Xian. A man's fame was like a tree's shadow. Last time, Lingtian had single-handedly killed hundreds of martial emperors and over 100 martial saints, shocking the kingdom. Even though Lingtian was no longer around, his prestige was still there. They dared not be careless. If Lingtian were to appear, they would join forces to kill him. This time, they were determined to destroy Qing Xian kingdom. This was also the order of Moonsong kingdom. Moreover, Lingtian of Qing Xian was too heaven-defying. If he was not completely destroyed, all the other kingdoms and kingdoms would be threatened. The battle was earth-shattering. Within a radius of 100,000 miles, the aura of destruction soared into the sky. The entire southern mountain city was in ruins. In the palace, Tang Qingyue and the others looked worried. With Qing Xian's current strength, it was only a matter of time before it was destroyed. If Qing Xian was destroyed, they would have no choice but to flee. However, Lingtian was still unaware of the situation or how he was doing. I wonder how Lingtian is doing now. Little sister Xiaobai, what was the situation the last time you saw Lingtian? Tang Qingyue looked worried as she looked at Little White. The last time Little White saw Lingtian in the Divine Dragon Ring was 3 days ago. They were all aware of Lingtian's situation but could not help but ask again as the situation was not right. When I saw brother, his injuries had already completely recovered. It seemed like he was breaking through the 5th layer of the true dragon body barrier. 3 days have passed. It should be about time. If the situation doesn't turn right, I'll go in and call my brother out. That way, he can bring us out of here first. Whitey was also worried. After all, breaking through to the 5th layer of the true dragon body barrier was heaven-defying. It was not so easy to break through. However, the situation outside was not looking good. If Qing Xian was destroyed, they would not even have the chance to escape with their cultivation base. Only when Lingtian came out and used his mystical body movement technique would they have a chance to escape. Oh right, how's Supervisor Long's Wargod? Huangfu Yuyan looked at Qingling. These few days, they had been cultivating and Qingling had been handling some matters. With the army approaching the city, Longde had returned to Qing Xian. Qingling let Longde supervise the construction of the Wargod. The array master and weapon refinement master inside the array were unaware of Lingtian's situation. They were not allowed to leave the array before the Wargod was completed, so they were unaware of the situation outside. Longda has already said that the Wargod is at the final juncture. Everything else has been completed. There's only one built-in formation that requires young master's help. There's no mistake in all the experiments. The Wargod has met young master's requirements. There are no problems with this. Qingling said seriously. Although she had been with Lingtian for a long time, she seldom dealt with such matters. She was worried that there might be a problem between them, so she told them everything. If there was a problem, the other sisters could find out and make up for it. The Wargod is one of Big Brother Lingtian's trump cards. It's a treasure to deal with the army. There can't be any mistakes. After this, Big Brother Lingtian will definitely be furious. At that time, the war will truly begin. Tang Ziman grew up with Lingtian and knew his personality. Although Tang Qingyuan knew about it, she would not say it out loud. Even though Lingtian was from his past life, their souls had fused together. His personality did not change much, but he was much more powerful than before and had his own personality. The fusion of the two souls became a perfect existence. At this moment, Little White exclaimed in surprise, and the expression on its face kept changing. Little sister Xiaobai, what's wrong? Tang Qingyue and the others looked at Little White and asked curiously, their faces full of concern. After all, Little White had Lingtian's divine dragon ring and she was the closest person to Lingtian. If anything happened to Lingtian, Little White would be the first to know. Sister Qingyu, you guys protect me. I'll go in and take a look. Xiaobai did not say anything because she looked very anxious. Without waiting for Tang Qingyue and the others to react, he closed his eyes and sent his divine sense into the divine dragon ring. As Lingtian's cultivation base improved, the space inside the divine dragon ring was also extremely huge. The dragon chi of 3,000 worlds had also been activated in 3 worlds. Although it was only the dragon chi of 3 worlds, it was less than 1% of the dragon chi of 1 world. However, the density of the dragon energy was different. The degree of dragon energy in every world was different. At present, Lingtian was in the 3rd world. Similarly, the silver-winged flying dragon was in the 3rd world. Little White did not show any signs of depression as its divine consciousness entered the 3rd world. However, when it saw Lingtian's condition, it was shocked. Roar! Roar! Boom! Boom! In the 3rd world, Lingtian was seen floating in the air as endless dragon energy rapidly entered his body. The dragon energy was rapidly tempering Lingtian. Opposite Lingtian was the silver-winged flying dragon. At this moment, the silver-winged flying dragon's body was constantly changing. Its terrifying body continued to transform. Now, the silver-winged flying dragon's silver wings were 2 meters long, and its entire body was 200 meters long. It looked shocking and unusually powerful. Lingtian and the silver-winged flying dragon were loyal to a dragon soul. Lingtian had refined this dragon's soul the last time, but he had yet to reach a certain level and could not unleash its full potential. He did not expect Lingtian to take out the dragon's soul at this moment and refine it together with the silver-winged flying dragon. True dragon strength. True dragon body. Lingtian and the silver-winged flying dragon roared at the same time as the shocking dragon energy world began to tremble. The destructive aura surged non-stop. Lingtian's aura changed rapidly as the true dragon's chi enveloped his entire body. At the same time, the dragon's soul was split into 2 halves. Lingtian absorbed half of the dragon's soul and the other half was absorbed by the silver-winged flying dragon. At this moment, the silver-winged flying dragon's cultivation realm continued to rise and break through, and its aura was shocking. Chapter 662, Coming Out of Seclusion, the Peak of the 7th Rank, 9th Rank, Great Circle. Level 1 of the 8th Step. Level 2 of the 8th Step. Level 3 of the 8th Step. Peak of the 8th Step, 3rd Rank. Level 4. Of the 8th Step. Little White's divine sense said in horror. He did not expect the silver-winged flying dragon to use its dragon's soul to activate its true dragon body, allowing it to continuously break through its realm. Such a breakthrough was only possible for the mighty figures of the dragon race. He did not expect the silver-winged flying dragon to be so abnormal. In the end, his realm stabilized at the peak of level 8, level 5. His terrifying true dragon body emitted an aura that could destroy the world. At this time, the silver-winged flying dragon was a true dragon powerhouse. True dragon force, break. The expression on Lingtian's face kept changing. With a final shout, the dragon energy in his body burst out before it was retracted. The giant dragon power turned into the true dragon power. The true dragon power was incomparably terrifying. At this moment, Lingtian was the ultimate powerhouse of the dragon tribe and could be said to be a true dragon tribe. Fifth Heaven Martial Emperor Realm, breakthrough. The moment the true dragon power stabilized, Lingtian's temperament sublimated and his overall strength improved. His cultivation had already risen to the peak of the Fifth Heaven Martial Emperor Realm. Finally, he broke through to the Martial Emperor Realm with the help of the true dragon body barrier. He had broken through to the 6th level of the Martial Emperor Realm from the 5th level of the Martial Emperor Realm. The strength of the 6th level of the Martial Emperor Realm was on a completely different level compared to the 5th level of the Martial Emperor Realm. Lingtian opened his eyes after the breakthrough. There was no longer any light in his eyes. However, it was even clearer, as dazzling as the stars in the starry sky. Big brother, the armies of the 14 kingdoms have arrived at the city. The city is already on the verge of destruction. When Xiao Bai saw Lingtian open his eyes, it quickly explained the situation outside. I understand. You go out first. I'll be right out. Lingtian took a glance at the silver-winged flying dragon not far away. The silver-winged flying dragon had already stabilized its state with the help of the terrifying dragon energy. Moreover, it was still absorbing dragon energy at a crazy rate to rapidly increase its state. With the dragon soul, his realm would not fall at all. It was the same for Lingtian now. Even if he was severely injured, his state would not drop. As he watched Little White leave the divine dragon ring, Lingtian adjusted his breathing to stabilize his various techniques. Buddy, let's go out and get some exercise. Lingtian's lips curled into a smile. This time, he would definitely beat these people until their hearts trembled. Since they dared to provoke him, they had to be prepared to pay the price. He wanted to leave a permanent scar in the hearts of these powerhouses. He wanted them to know that no matter what, he, Lingtian, was an invincible existence. The silver-winged flying dragon's eyes revealed an excited expression. To it, reaching the peak of level 8, level 5, was completely heaven-defying. At the same time, it was grateful to Lingtian. If it were not for Lingtian's constant nurturing, it would not have reached tier 8. In the end, Lingtian even took out the dragon's soul. It understood the importance of the dragon's soul, but it was precisely this important dragon's soul that Lingtian did not hold back and allowed it to advance. Soon after, Lingtian left the divine dragon ring and appeared in the courtyard. Tang Qingyue and the others were overjoyed to see Lingtian. They sized him up at the same time. Seeing that Lingtian's injuries had fully recovered and his cultivation base had improved, he felt even more relieved. Big brother, your injuries have recovered. It seems that your cultivation has also increased quite a bit. Ge stood obediently beside Lingtian and spoke softly with an adorable appearance. Yes, I've already broken through to the 6th Heaven Martial Emperor realm. The true dragon body protection has also reached the true dragon power. Lingtian had a smile on his face. He had been injured recently and had not been with his woman. On the contrary, he had made them worry and he felt guilty. He looked at Huangfu Yuyan and the others with guilt in his eyes. It's good that your injuries have recovered. That's right. As long as my injuries are healed, I can cultivate again. This time, young master broke through after being injured. It's something to be happy about. Imperial uncle. The girls were all extremely excited and did not know what to say for a moment. On the other hand, Xianyuan Qingqing ran to Li Lingtian's side and tugged at his shirt happily. She looked up at Li Lingtian with her little face and sized him up. "My baby, come here and hug me." Li Lingtian bent down and picked Xianyuan Qingqing up with a kind smile on his face. At this moment, the silver-winged flying dragon appeared in the courtyard. However, its huge body had long been retracted. It was only 3 meters tall now. Its aura was extremely weak, just like an ordinary demon beast. "Let's go and take a look at the front. Let's see if they can really turn the world upside down." Li Lingtian led Huangfu Yuyan and the others out of the palace at a moderate pace. Along the way, countless troops were mobilized. Countless powerhouses dashed forward, but they had forgotten about Li Lingtian and the others. By the time Li Lingtian and the others reached the city wall, no one had noticed them. Li Lingtian could not be bothered with these people. Instead, he found a random spot to watch the battle in front of him. In this war, Qing Xian did not defend to the death like they did in the past. This was because it was impossible to defend against an army of tens of millions. It was better to attack directly and die with the enemy. The Divine Wind, Divine Dragon, and Divine Martial Army were also fighting against the tens of millions of soldiers. Without Li Lingtian's presence, even if the army was strong, it had lost its soul and fighting spirit. Their strength was not as strong as before, and the Qing Xian country's army was constantly dying. The 14 Kingdoms' army had an earth-shaking momentum. "Hey!" Li Lingtian sighed. He now understood that he had to nurture a true soul to suppress the army. Otherwise, the army would lose its morale and soul every time something happened to him. He wanted to find a person who could possess the soul of the army. Even if he left, the soul of the army would still exist. "You guys protect yourselves. I'll settle the matter here." Li Lingtian looked at the morale of the 3 legions and the Qing Xian Kingdom's army that was dying one after another. He felt depressed, but he did not want to wait any longer. As he spoke, he had already understood the forces on the battlefield. There were as many martial emperor powerhouses as there were clouds and more than 100 martial saint powerhouses. However, these martial saint powerhouses did not make a move. From the looks of it, it was rumored that he had already fallen and was not worth violating the Iron Law. Most of the 100 or so martial saint experts were at the first or second sky. However, there were 8 fifth sky martial saint experts. Moreover, these experts were the sole figures of the army. As long as these experts were killed, the siege of Qing Xian would be resolved. At that time, he would use his thunderous methods to destroy all the experts and all the armies. If he shook the world and provoked Li Lingtian, it would be endless destruction. "Emichim, be careful." Huangfu Yuyan and the rest nodded. They knew that the battle would not end if Li Lingtian did not step forward. They were relieved to see Li Lingtian's battle with their own eyes. Even if there was any danger, at least they knew that they could face it together. Li Lingtian would no longer be fighting alone. Understood. Li Lingtian nodded and exhaled a breath of cold air to calm himself down. He looked coldly at all the super experts in the sky, and killing intent surged in his heart. He circulated all the true essence in his body. The other party had countless experts, so he naturally wouldn't let the other party make preparations before making a move. The true dragon body barrier was also used. In his hand, the heavenly extreme tyrant emperor saber was held. However, after the appearance of the Empyrean terminus emperor saber, there was no longer the slightest bit of pressure. The pressure was sealed by Li Lingtian and would only erupt when it was time to make a move. He waved his hand in the air and disappeared. Ah! 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 In the sky, 3 blood-curdling screams rang out. Originally, in the battle between millions of soldiers and countless experts, the screams were endless. Such screams were nothing at all. However, this scream had a penetrating power because it came from the void. Only martial saints would stand in the void and watch the battle. When the 3 screams fell, the 3 fifth sky martial saints had already fallen. Their bodies fell quickly. After killing 3/5 Sky Martial Saints in a row, all the Martial Saints reacted. They flashed quickly to avoid the invisible killing intent and destructive pressure. The shocking attack blasted towards the invisible killing intent and pressure, but when the attack landed, the killing intent and pressure disappeared together. When they reappeared, they were already 100 miles in the air. All the powerhouses were stunned at this moment. 3 heaven-defying powerhouses at the 5th sky of the Martial Saint realm were killed silently in front of hundreds of Martial Saint powerhouses. What kind of concept was this? The 5th sky of the Martial Saint realm could be wiped out so easily. How powerful was the opponent? Even if the opponent had just launched a sneak attack, this strength was still enough to shock the heavens. This was because a Martial Saint's reaction and senses were strong. They would dodge and block before the danger arrived. Moreover, if an expert tore through the air and came, there would be fluctuations in space. It was impossible to sneak attack a martial arts master above the supreme realm. In this world, sneak attacks were not valid. However, 3 of the strongest 5th sky martial saints had been killed in an instant. If the opponent didn't release his killing intent and pressure, even if he killed all the experts, no one would be able to resist. When they saw that figure in the sky, all the experts were shocked. Lingtian. It's Lingtian. How is that possible? Wasn't Lingtian injured and killed? Why did my cultivation level increase? What's going on? What a terrifying technique. Young Master D, it's young Master D. Young Master D has appeared. It's really young Master D. He didn't die. I knew that young Master D was an invincible existence. It's impossible for him to fall. All of a sudden, the armies and experts from both sides cried out in surprise. There was shock and joy in their eyes. The armies of the 14 countries were shocked and terrified because that legendary figure had already fallen and appeared again. Moreover, he was even stronger. The army of the Qingxian kingdom and the 3 legions were all pleasantly surprised because the legendary expert had reappeared after he was injured and died. Moreover, he was even more heaven-defying. In an instant, he had silently killed 3/5 sky martial saints. What kind of concept was it to casually kill a 5th sky martial saint? I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage Myriad Ancient King. I welcome everyone to read and save it. I also want to vote for it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 663, Silver-Winged Flying Dragon Level 8, Level 5 Morale. The morale of both armies instantly reversed. The morale of the 14 kingdoms' armies plummeted, while the morale of the Qingxian kingdom and the 3 legions soared. The imposing manner of the Qingxian kingdom army suddenly soared and reached an extreme. For a period of time, it was torturous to say that young Master D had fallen. But now, young Master D had appeared, and it was even more shocking than the rumors said. They were all extremely excited and filled with fighting spirit. The thought of Lingtian's legend in the heavenly fire mountains excited all the troops and powerhouses. First, he saw the 3/5 sky martial saints die with his own eyes. They were killed by young Master D himself without a sound. All his guesses disappeared. I've been waiting for you for a long time. You're all too useless. You've disappointed me. Lingtian hovered in the air as he looked at all the powerhouses with an icy gaze. His entire body emitted a faint aura, and he was like a god of war standing proudly between heaven and earth. Countless martial sovereigns and hundreds of martial saints were extremely shocked at this moment. They were extremely clear about what happened in the Sky Fire Mountain range. Even if they didn't see it with their own eyes, they knew that the battle that time was extremely intense. In the beginning, he didn't take it seriously because he didn't see it with his own eyes. He thought it was just a rumor. However, Lingtian had eliminated 3/5 heaven martial saints with ease. This was not fake at all. There were 8 5th firmament martial saints here, but 3 of them were gone all of a sudden. Moreover, the other party had not used any big move to exterminate them. They had lost before the battle even started. Under such circumstances, how could they not be shocked? Lingtian, didn't you die in the Skyfire Mountains? A fifth firmament Marshal Saint Powerhouse looked at Lingtian with a constantly changing expression. He was already extremely fearful of Lingtian. If he wanted to leave, he would lose face. If he did not leave, he would be in danger of being killed. He was curious as well. Rumors had it that Lingtian had fallen in Moonsong Kingdom. Hundreds of martial emperors, hundreds of martial saints, and even supremacy Tian had fallen. No matter how powerful Lingtian was, he was still injured. In addition, the army of Qing Xian and the Carefree Empire had been defeated and their morale had been reduced. All these proved that Lingtian had fallen. However, Lingtian had appeared at this very moment and he was even more powerful than before. This question was also a question for all the experts. It was something that countless experts in Qing Xian wanted to know. This time, many of the Qing Xian kingdom's army had left because of this rumor. Who do you think can defeat me in this world? Martial Saint? Wargod? Or you trash? As long as I am willing, no one in this world can kill me. There's no harm in telling you. That day, I killed hundreds of martial emperors, hundreds of martial saints, and even Heavenly Knight, but I was injured. However, I have an undying body. As long as my soul is not destroyed, I will never be destroyed. The more injured I am, the faster I will break through. Lingtian laughed loudly with an arrogant expression on his face. However, at this moment, no one called him arrogant. This was because he had the qualifications and ability to do so. Lingtian was indeed injured and he was even more powerful after his breakthrough. Undying body? Heavenly Knight also died? You are immortal. Then let's see if you're immortal or not. Today, either you die or we die. All the experts were shocked, even the experts of Qing Xian were shocked. However, all the powerhouses immediately channeled their true essence. Since they had offended Lingtian, he would not let them off the hook given his cultivation base, strength, and personality. With such a tone, it would be better for them to have a big fight first. Even if they were to fall, they would drag Lingtian down with them. Return them all to me. Lingtian shouted as he watched the countless Qing Xian army fall. Since there was going to be a war, there would be destruction. He did not want his army to fall. After saying that, he circulated the true essence in his entire body to the extreme, and a shocking aura was instantly displayed. The sixth heaven martial emperor realm's cultivation aura was already comparable to the third or fourth heaven martial saint realm. All the powerhouses were shocked by the scene. Lingtian was only at the fifth heaven martial emperor realm a while ago, but he was now at the sixth heaven martial emperor realm. It seemed like what he said was true. Come out. Lingtian channeled his true essence and with a wave of his hand, the silver-winged flying dragon on the city wall shot toward him and hovered beside him. The terrifying medicinal power was fully displayed. It looked only 2 to 3 meters tall, but the destructive aura made all the experts not dare to underestimate it. Boom! The silver-winged flying dragon came to Lingtian's side. It then channeled its demonic power once again and materialized its true form. Instantly, a 200-meter-long true dragon floated in the sky, and the space trembled. Its 100-meter-long silver wings flapped lightly, and the destructive wind blew countless armies and experts into nothingness. Its silver body was like a silver machine of destruction. Instantly, all the experts cried out in surprise. Silver-winged flying dragon. 8th rank silver-winged flying dragon. This is a silver-winged flying dragon at the peak of level 5 of the 8th step. I didn't expect there to be a level 8, level 5 silver-winged flying dragon. For a moment, countless experts were stunned by the silver-winged flying dragon's domineering aura. Terrifying demonic power wreaked havoc in the space. The powerful visual impact made countless experts tremble. Not to mention fighting with this silver-winged flying dragon, even this pressure was not something that ordinary martial artists could withstand. The 5th Sky Super Martial Saints were also surprised. A level 8 level 5 silver-winged flying dragon was equivalent to a 5th Sky Martial Saint. Moreover, the silver-winged flying dragon was the king of the sky. It was extremely terrifying to begin with. Now that it had reached the peak of level 8, it would be defeated even if it encountered a 6th Sky Martial Saint. Lingtian alone was enough to give them a headache, let alone a silver-winged flying dragon at the peak of level 8 level 5. In a flash, Lingtian appeared on the silver-winged flying dragon's back and sat cross-legged with a faint glow in his eyes. This light was like a star in the night sky. Sacrifice. With a flick of his divine sense, the Tianma zither appeared in his hand. The exquisite Tianma zither was originally only the size of a palm, but after a spell seal, it became 3 feet long, no different from an ordinary zither. Clang! An ethereal sound of a zither was heard, and the sound of the zither soared into the 9 heavens. The beautiful sound of nature made all the experts look confused. What a beautiful zither music! Oh no, this is the music that was rumored to have killed hundreds of martial emperors and martial saints in the Sky Fire Mountain range. Be careful. This zither music is not simple. Yeah, hurry up and stop him, or it'll be too late. All the powerhouses looked at the Tianma zither in front of Lingtian. Although they did not recognize it, Lingtian was definitely not in a leisurely mood when he was performing the zither in front of the countless troops and powerhouses. He was most likely using sound waves to attack. The sound wave attacks were everywhere, and there was no way to defend against them. Now, they had to kill Lingtian before the Guqin's killing intent appeared. Otherwise, it would be too late to stop it when the killing intent appeared. Clang! 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 The sound of the zither slowly rang out, and the sky quieted down in front of this sound. The battlefield that was originally filled with killing intent also quieted down at this time. The beautiful sound of nature intoxicated countless low-level martial artists. He put down his weapon and looked at Lingtian, who was in the air. A single sound can make all things drunk. Lingtian looked at the Tianma zither seriously as his 10 fingers moved. Waves of heavenly sounds appeared under his fingers and drifted into the air. Boom! Roar! Rumble! Rumble! Clang! 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 In the sky, a shocking explosion sounded as countless supreme martial emperors and martial saints bombarded Lingtian with shocking attacks. However, all the attacks were blocked by the silver-winged flying dragon's defense. The massive destructive silver wings flapped in the air, and a heaven-defying hurricane swept through the world. Countless armies were destroyed in front of this hurricane. Silver-winged flying dragons were the kings of the sky. They were extremely fast, and with their true dragon bodies, their defenses were extremely strong. Lingtian was sitting cross-legged on the silver-winged flying dragon. All of its attacks were blocked by the silver-winged flying dragon, and it kept dodging as it charged toward the 14 nations' army. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. Wherever the silver-winged flying dragon passed, countless powerhouses below the martial supreme realm were destroyed. The sound of the zither was still playing at a moderate pace, as if it would never stop. The music was so beautiful that the army on the city wall was completely intoxicated. However, the armies of the 14 countries trembled and fell in front of the silver-winged flying dragons. All the experts chased after the silver-winged flying dragons to attack, but when the silver-winged flying dragons entered the armies of the 14 countries, the armies of the 14 countries fell. From time to time, they would enter the midst of countless martial arts saints and direct the attacks of martial arts saints to their own people. Two-tone heaven and earth desolate annihilation. The sound of the zither suddenly changed, and the beautiful sound of nature in the sky disappeared. In exchange, it was replaced by a murderous aura. The entire battlefield was instantly filled with killing intent. All the armies were destroyed by the endless zither music before they could react. It was the same for the martial emperor powerhouses. He gave up on attacking Lingtian and began to circulate his cultivation technique to protect his body. However, the heavenly demonic zither and the second note of the heavenly demonic 8 tones were simply destructive. The martial monarch realm experts did not have the slightest ability to resist at all. Martial monarch realm experts continued to die rapidly. Hush! The army of Qing Xian and the experts on the city walls were all stunned when they saw the destruction of the army and the destruction of the martial monarch realm experts wherever the zither music passed. They had heard of the events in the heavenly fire mountain range, but they had never seen it with their own eyes. Now that they had seen the power of the zither music with their own eyes, they were all terrified. Boom! With a loud explosion, a destructive attack finally broke through the silver-winged flying dragon's defense. The destructive attack was headed straight for Lingtian. Lingtian looked at the devastating attack with a faint smile on his face and a hint of disdain at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 664, Shocking Battle. 1. The destructive attack was enough to destroy any martial emperor powerhouse. Even a martial saint powerhouse would be killed. Lingtian looked at the attack before him with a faint glint in his eyes. 3 tones, life extermination war. His 10 fingers strummed the strings of the zither, and the sound of the zither changed. Suddenly, an aura of extermination condensed in the sky. As his fingers moved, an invisible sound wave met the destructive attack. Thump. Rumble. A zither note tore through the air, followed by a destructive explosion. The world trembled in front of this explosion, and space was destroyed. When the third note appeared, Lingtian's 10 fingers moved and quickly played the zither notes. He stood up and glared coldly at the powerhouses. Every time he waved his finger, a martial saint would die under the sound waves. The tens of millions of soldiers below were continuously dying, disappearing into the wind and turning into dust. All the experts and the army could not sit still at this moment. Tens of millions of soldiers were being wiped out by an expert, but they couldn't touch him at all. Tens of thousands of troops were destroyed at every turn. Moreover, martial monarch realm experts fell like rain, and martial saint realm experts were also constantly killed and destroyed. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before these armies were completely annihilated. Even martial saints and martial emperors would be annihilated. Seconds passed. The destructive attacks in the sky, the beautiful music, and countless sounds intertwined. Countless martial emperors and martial saints had fallen. Lingtian kept his eyes on the Tianma zither as he waved his fingers. The last time he used the third sound, he was seriously injured. However, now that he had broken through the true dragon body protection in the martial monarch realm, his strength was guaranteed and his physique was even stronger. Naturally, when he used the third note, it was also natural. There was no harm at all. The only thing was that his true essence consumption was too high. Clang! Lingtian's fingers stopped when the last note of the zither was played. He looked at the battlefield below. At this moment, the tens of millions of troops had already scattered. Nearly 1 million troops had been destroyed, and countless martial emperors and martial saints had been destroyed. In the sky, there were only 30 or so martial saints left. The rest were all at the 4th or 5th sky of the martial saint realm. The silver-winged wyvern was also inflicted with countless damages, but these damages were completely ignored by the powerful dragons. The peak of rank 8, rank 5, was definitely the strongest among these martial arts saints. If it was not for the fact that it was protecting Lingtian, it would not have suffered any harm at all. Lingtian left the silver-winged flying dragon and hovered in the air. With a swipe of his hand, the Tianma zither disappeared from his hand. He looked coldly at the 30 over martial saints. Now, we can have a fair battle. Lingtian said calmly as he looked at the 5th firmament martial saint realm martial saint. He ignored the other martial saint powerhouses. This was because he had a silver-winged flying dragon beside him. A silver-winged flying dragon at the peak of level 8 and level 5 was completely capable of dealing with other martial saints below the 4th heaven. It should have been like this a long time ago. You're a mighty expert. Don't you have any manners when you attack an ordinary army? A fifth Sky Martial Saint was furious. They had been following behind Li Lingtian without harming Li Lingtian at all. On the contrary, they had killed many of their own army and powerhouses. Furthermore, their army had lost millions of men and almost all of their martial emperors and martial saints had perished. There were only 30 of them left. In this way, even if they killed Li Lingtian, they would not be able to face him in the future. Ha, ha. What a joke. You 14 countries have joined forces to attack Qingxian. You have an army of 10 million, thousands of martial emperors, and hundreds of martial saints. What is this? I'm also a 6th level martial emperor. I'm just a drop in the bucket among you so-called powerhouses. What's there to talk about? Li Lingtian laughed out loud. At the same time, the armies and powerhouses from the 14 nations felt humiliated. However, the powerhouses from their own side had to say such words. Even they were starting to despise them. The Qingxian kingdom's army and the powerhouses on the city wall laughed. They were equally proud that even a supreme martial saint powerhouse had called Li Lingtian a powerhouse. The powerhouse that the martial saint powerhouse thought was actually a martial emperor. This was also Li Lingtian's heaven-defying ability that made even the martial saint powerhouses feel apprehensive and even afraid. It's true that you're a martial emperor. However, are your methods that of a martial emperor powerhouse? Look at the millions of fallen soldiers, the hundreds of martial monarch realm experts, and nearly 100 martial saint realm experts. Did they commit suicide? Yao Tianyu said loudly. His face was also red. It was unknown whether he was angry or embarrassed. When he first said this, he regretted it too, but it was too late. Words that were said were like water that was poured out. Now, he could only insist on what he said. He was the only one who could say such righteous words to boost the morale of others and diminish his own prestige. All right, let's do it. If the few of you are able to escape from my hands, then it will be your luck. This army of 10 million will forever remain here. If you dare to escape, then try to see if I have the means to destroy them all. A faint smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face as he circulated his true essence and his aura soared into the sky. In this world, it was normal to cultivate devil skills even if the heavenly devil region was used here. Moreover, the heavenly devil region did not have devil chi. Its power was relatively weaker than when it used devil chi. However, the resistance of the heavenly devil region to pressure was extremely strong. The true dragon barrier was unleashed at this moment, and the space shook. Metal Dao intent. As he muttered to himself, he looked into the void. Suddenly, the destructive metal elemental spiritual energy in the world surged, and a strong wind raged. He was now facing all the experts in the world. If he said that he was going to fight 5 super martial saints, he was not afraid that these experts would make the first move. After all, these experts cared about their reputation. Wood Dao intent. After the metal will of the Great Path, it was followed by the wood will of the Great Path. The spiritual energy in the sky was abundant, and it made people feel extremely fresh as if 10,000 trees had come to spring. However, the experts from the 14 countries and the 30 martial saints in the air were all shocked. Only martial saint powerhouses had the chance to come into contact with the will of the way. However, he did not expect that a martial emperor powerhouse would also be able to control the will of the way. Moreover, 2 kinds of will appeared at once. As expected, it's the perfected 5 elements Dao intent. After the metal and wood will of the Great Path, it should be the will of the Great Path of water. The will of the 5 elements is indeed heaven-defying. Do it. Do it. All of a sudden, all the martial saints agreed to join forces. If Li Lingtian defeated the 5 super martial saints, they would be stuck here forever. With that said, he unleashed a destructive technique to attack Li Lingtian. Although their opponent was the silver-winged flying dragon, they were attacking Li Lingtian. To them, the silver-winged flying dragon was a giant. They were no match for it at all. If they could kill Li Lingtian, they could join forces to kill the silver-winged flying dragon. Rumble. Boom. Boom. Roar. Roar. The space trembled as the silver-winged flying dragon swung its huge tail and unleashed a destructive force to smash at the opponent. Naturally, it would not allow Lingtian to be attacked at this moment. The earth-shattering attack was earth-shattering. At this moment, it was the real battle between martial saints, or rather, the battle between martial saints and martial saints. Lingtian completely ignored the attacks. Instead, he quickly circulated the 5 elements Tao will. Water Tao intent. The will of the fire. The will of the earth. 5 elements perfection, heaven and earth balance. A faint smile appeared on Lingtian's face as the last 3 Tao wills formed in an instant. Instantly, the 5 elements Tao wills of space raged. Countless armies vanished in front of the will of the Great Path, which was even more terrifying and powerful than the power of the Tianma zither. Lingtian's heavenly demonic zither's heavenly demonic music was only targeted at martial saints and martial emperors, but its Tao intent covered the entire space. The will of the Great Path was everywhere. As long as there was spiritual energy, the will of the Great Path would be destroyed. Lingtian's Tao intent was of the 5 elements. The 5 types of Tao intent directly killed the army. Stars in the 9 skies. This is a trump card of a mighty figure. Let's see how capable you are. Just use it. Otherwise, it'll be too late to regret it. As he spoke, he displayed the 99 5-colored spiritual pearls. Immediately, 99 5-colored spiritual pearls spun in the air and surrounded Lingtian with him at the center. A small 5-element world appeared. The area within a 300-meter radius of Lingtian was completely under his control. The 9 heavenly stars. Almighty divine ability. An independent world of the 5 elements. What a terrifying 9 heavenly stars. This is the 9 heaven star of the Xianyuan family. The stars in the 9 heavens are indeed not simple. Xianyuan Bailing and the others, as well as the 5 super martial saints, exclaimed. It was their first time seeing such a powerful divine ability, so they were extremely shocked. At that moment, the 5 super martial saints had already unleashed their earth-shattering attacks. The 5 of them surrounded Lingtian but did not attack him immediately. Xiantian's southern mountain, 12 moon fingers. Earth-shattering. Fiery intelligence. White cloud divine wind slash. Sky screen art. The 5 martial saint powerhouses stared at the 9 heavenly stars in front of Lingtian. The stars in the 9 skies absorbed the heaven and earth spirit chi. The independent world had become one with the sky. Lingtian was like the master of this world. He didn't even have the slightest confidence in facing such a powerful divine ability. However, he was already in a difficult situation. Even if he escaped, it was impossible. They looked at each other and did not say anything. However, they used their most powerful attack, which was also their most powerful trump card. He didn't hold back at all, because if he held back now, it would be equivalent to courting death. Suddenly, 5 fifth sky martial saints unleashed 5 destructive attacks that shook the world. The ground trembled and groaned in front of these 5 attacks. Similarly, Lingtian's stars in the 9 skies was also shaking. In this battle, the same 5th firmament martial saint was fighting against his stars in the 9 skies. However, this time, 5 fifth heaven martial saints were unharmed. Even if they did not join forces, the threat they posed to Lingtian was many times greater than the last time. Chapter 665, The Power of a True Dragon, Boom. With a shocking explosion, 5 destructive attacks bombarded the 9 stars in the sky. The stars in the 9 skies trembled. A mouthful of blood trickled out of Lingtian's mouth as his face turned pale. However, the stars in the 9 heavens did not shatter as expected. The 5 devastating attacks were in a stalemate with the 9 sky stars. Originally, the 5 fifth sky martial saints were not as powerful as the 4 symbol sky formation. However, the 5 of them were all at the peak of the 5th sky of the martial saint realm. If they used their trump cards at the same time, they would be able to use the 4 symbols sky array more freely than the 4 of them. At the same time, the power would be countless times stronger. Although Lingtian had become stronger after his breakthrough, the 9 sky stars were still a little weaker when faced with the attacks of 5 super martial saints. Rumble. Rumble. The earth-shattering explosion came from space. It was the sound of space shattering. Lingtian and the 9 sky stars retreated swiftly. The 5 super martial saints pressed down on Lingtian with destructive attacks before they disappeared into the horizon. Roar. The silver-winged flying dragon also roared, and its destructive demonic power swept across the remaining martial saint experts. Now that he did not have to protect Lingtian, he could unleash his destructive attacks. His astounding defense basically ignored the attacks of the warrior sage powerhouses. Its body was a treasure of destruction. It waved its huge tail, and with a single attack, the space trembled. Every time they attacked, a martial saint powerhouse would die. The silver-winged flying dragons were completely slaughtering the 20 over martial saints. All of the experts were dodging, but the army could not move at all. In the battle of the martial saints, the army was like ants, constantly being destroyed. Ah, 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 ah. The peak of level 8, level 5, was equivalent to the peak of the 5th sky of the martial saint realm. However, with the physique and power of the dragon clan, its strength was equivalent to the 6th sky of the martial saint realm. A powerful silver-winged flying dragon did not put these experts below the 4th sky of the martial saint realm in his eyes at all. The feeling of being suppressed at the beginning was completely vented at this time. In the sky, the screams of death resounded through the world. The silver-winged flying dragons flapped their huge silver wings, and countless armies were sent flying before being destroyed. A series of deafening explosions rang out in the sky. The army and powerhouses were unsure of the victor between Lingtian and the 5 super martial saints. However, they were certain that Lingtian had not perished or the battle would have ended. Boom! After a full minute, the silver-winged flying dragons had already killed most of the martial saints in the sky above the battlefield. Suddenly, the sky emitted a shocking light. The light was 5-colored. The entire sky was illuminated by this 5-colored light. If it weren't for the tens of millions of troops here, they would have seen this sky as a beautiful world. After this earth-shattering explosion, the world temporarily fell silent. All the experts looked at the sky. No one appeared in the sky, so they didn't know what the situation was. Moreover, no one dared to go up and size them up because they were not qualified to join such a big battle at all. Even the former martial saints did not dare to go. Boom! 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 After a moment, a shocking explosion sounded in the sky again. Explosions rang out like thunder. The entire ground collapsed at this moment. Countless armies were destroyed in the collapsed world. Big Sister Yuyan, how is Big Brother Lingtian? Tang Zimeng asked Huangfu Yuyan worriedly as she watched the battle in the distance and could not see Lingtian's condition. He should be confident. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fought 5 super martial saints after he was injured. Huangfu Yuyan was not sure either. She could only comfort herself and Tang Zimeng. Sister Yuyan is right. The first few are all stars in the 9 heavens. It should be because the stars in the 9 heavens were broken that brother didn't kill them. Now, he has used the 5th layer of the true dragon body barrier, the true dragon power. The true dragon strength is 5 true dragons, and its might is shocking. Even in our dragon clan, it's a height that's difficult to compare to. Coupled with Big Brother Lingtian's strength and cultivation, as well as that heaven-defying physique, the true dragon strength that he executed can only be described as terrifying. Little White looked at the sky and sensed the fighting spirit in Lingtian's body. She had a friendly contract with Lingtian, so she was naturally aware of Lingtian's situation unless they were too far apart. She knew that Lingtian had fallen no matter how far away it was. Just as Little White had said, Lingtian's 9 heavenly stars had been destroyed, but the 5 super martial saints were severely injured and almost died. Lingtian spat out a mouthful of blood as his face turned deathly pale. However, when he saw the 5 martial saints, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He had a better understanding of his cultivation. Now that he was at the 6th heaven, he was several times stronger than the 5th heaven. Humph, so a martial saint is only so-so. Lingtian said coldly as he floated in the air. He reached out to wipe the blood off the corner of his mouth. There was a trace of disdain on their faces. This disdain made the 5 martial saints feel as if their hearts were pricked by needles. However, they did not say anything because they had already lost. The 5 martial saints were defeated by a martial emperor even though they had joined forces. You are indeed powerful, but you are also at the end of your offensive. Do you have the ability to kill us? A middle-aged powerhouse looked at Lingtian with a crazed expression. It was the same for the other martial saint powerhouses, as Lingtian had already unleashed his most powerful 9 heavenly stars. There was nothing he could do to kill them. Lingtian would be courting death if he used a single attack because there were 5 of them. However, what happened next made the 5 super martial saints' expressions change drastically. Lingtian tossed a pill into his mouth. Instantly, his exhausted true essence completely recovered to its peak state, and his spirit also recovered. The few martial saints were shocked by this situation. What a miraculous pill. The 5 super martial saints couldn't hold it in any longer as they watched their Jin Yuan recover. If this continued, the other party would exhaust them to death with just pills. I'll show you. True Dragon Body Protection, 5th level, True Dragon Power. Lingtian replied calmly with a calm expression on his face. However, he did not stop talking. With a wave of his hands, a magical gesture was performed. Instantly, the aura of his entire body suddenly changed. The original true essence disappeared, and what came with it was a mysterious and terrifying demonic power. The demonic power was shocking, and the space trembled. Dragon Chi. It's Dragon Chi. A few martial saint powerhouses recognized it at this moment. This aura was the aura of the silver-winged flying dragon from the beginning. The silver-winged flying dragon was from the dragon race. The aura that Lingtian was unleashing now was also dragon energy, and it was extremely pure. Compared to the dragon energy of the silver-winged flying dragon, it was even more powerful. That's right. I'll let you die with an understanding. As soon as Lingtian finished speaking, he had already unleashed the 5th layer of the true dragon body barrier. A terrifying true dragon chi erupted beside him, giving people a powerful feeling. Dragon chi gushed out of the divine dragon ring. 5 true dragons circled around the ring. Each time they circled, the true dragons became twice as powerful. In the blink of an eye, the 5 true dragons were 20 meters long. The 20-meter-long true dragon stirred the aura of space and shattered the air. Roar! Roar! With 5 roars, 5 true dragons shot out toward the 5 martial saints. The space was torn apart. In an instant, the 5 true dragons had already bombarded the martial saint powerhouse. Rumble! Rumble! Bursts of explosions sounded as the 5 true dragons continuously attacked the martial saint. The 5 true dragons did not attack a single person. Instead, the 5 true dragons attacked each other. Within a radius of 10 miles, dragon chi was rampant. 5 true dragons shuttled among the martial saint powerhouses. The destructive dragon energy destroyed the defense of the martial saints. The terrifying demonic power and destructive power made the 5 martial saints, who were already at the end of their attacks, suffer. Ah! The first scream was heard. A 5th sky martial saint had fallen. Ah! A second scream sounded. Another martial saint fell. 2 out of the 5 martial saint fell. The pressure the 5 true dragons gave the remaining 3 martial saint experts was even greater. However, the dragon energy quickly disappeared, and the 5 true dragons became much weaker. If this continued, it would be impossible for them to kill all the martial arts saints. Li Lingtian's lips curled into an evil smile when he saw this. With a flick of his divine sense, the true dragon chi in the divine dragon ring surged out and entered his body. The true dragon body barrier circulated even faster, and the 5 true dragons became stronger again. With the enhancement of the dragon energy, the true dragon became even more violent. Ah! Another scream sounded. A martial saint had fallen. The other 2 martial saints had long lost their will to fight. In the blink of an eye, the 5 true dragons disappeared and bombarded the 2 martial saint powerhouses. Without any suspense, the 2 martial saint powerhouses died. Hush! Li Lingtian looked up at the sky. The place was in a mess and had basically been razed to the ground. However, the air quickly recovered. The 5 martial saints would disappear from this place forever. Chapter 666, Moonsong Kingdom, Surrender or Perish? Li Lingtian said coldly as he looked at the 6 fourth heaven martial saint powerhouses facing the silver-winged flying dragon. His tone was cold and without the slightest threat, but it was enough for Li Lingtian. If they submitted, they could live. If they resisted, they would die. It was just a level 4 heaven. It was nothing at all. If it was before, he might have paid attention to it. Now, his cultivation and strength had reached a realm that a martial monarch realm expert could only look up to. Even a 5th sky martial saint realm expert would tremble in front of him. Surrender. We surrender. At this moment, the 6 fourth sky martial saints did not even have the chance to escape. It was only a matter of time before they perished. Moreover, with Li Lingtian's return, they had even less of a chance. Will you submit or die? Li Lingtian glared at the army of 10 million soldiers below him as he spoke coldly. His voice was soft, but it reached the ears of the entire army. His entire aura was like a god of war. I submit. I'm willing to go through fire and water for young Master D. There was no reason for all the armies to not submit. Even the martial saint realm experts had been killed. All the martial saints had died, and only a few of them were left. Moreover, they had submitted. They were just ordinary warriors and an ordinary army. If they did not submit, Li Lingtian's strength and personality would make them disappear in the blink of an eye. Li Lingtian returned to the top of the city wall and scanned the powerhouses and the army before nodding in satisfaction. I'll say one last thing. Those who submit, submit forever. I'll give you a glorious world. I don't like betrayals. Even if those who betray me run away to the clouds, I will wipe them out. You all understand that I don't want to pursue this matter, and I don't want there to be a next time. Li Lingtian spoke in a calm voice without the slightest hint of anger. However, all the powerhouses knew that those who had left would never return. This time, it was Li Lingtian's test. He had used 7 nations to test his subordinates. Furthermore, he knew Li Lingtian's true strength. No matter what happened, he would not be defeated. Congratulations, young master. Your cultivation has improved greatly. Ancient Xianyuan City and the others came before Li Lingtian and greeted him respectfully. Everyone bowed. They wouldn't feel embarrassed because they saw a young man in front of them, because this young man was a heaven-defying expert. It was an undefeatable legend. To be able to meet such a master was an honor. Congratulations, young master. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others bowed to Li Lingtian with excitement on their faces. Even though it was only a breakthrough to the martial emperor realm, it was a heaven-defying power for a powerhouse like Li Lingtian. The more powerful Li Lingtian was, the more excited they were. They were only assured when Li Lingtian was strong. It was good to enjoy the shade under a big tree. If the big tree fell, then it would be like the monkeys scattering when the tree fell. This time, organize the army for me and sweep the world. Li Lingtian glanced at Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the other 2 indifferently before his gaze slowly shifted to Xianyuan Bailing and the others. He looked away from everyone. With that, he left the city wall with Tang Qingyue and the others. All the soldiers and experts looked at the elegant figure with excitement and admiration in their eyes. He was truly a legend, fighting against an army of 10 million by himself. A legend who single-handedly suppressed an army of millions and countless supreme experts. The Qingxian Kingdom's army did not move at all. With their heaven-defying cultivation base, they swept through the tens of millions of soldiers, thousands of martial emperors, and hundreds of martial saints. In the future, this legend would continue. In the hearts of all the experts, the image of a handsome young man and a silver flying dragon had already been carved. The man and the dragon could destroy the world. After Lingtian's departure, the Qingxian Kingdom's army began to organize their forces and incorporated the armies of the 14 kingdoms. Even a fool would understand that Lingtian was furious after the army was reorganized. Once the army was reorganized, they would sweep through the kingdom at any time. It was no longer a battle between the kingdoms but a war between the carefree dynasty and the kingdoms. Moonsong Kingdom was shaken. They thought that with Lingtian dead, it would be a piece of cake for the 14 kingdoms to attack Qingxian. However, they did not expect Lingtian to show up so powerfully. He and his dragon had swept away the army of 10 million. His heaven-defying strength had shocked the world. The incident at the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range and the current events had proven Lingtian's heaven-defying abilities. A martial emperor stage powerhouse had mastered a heaven-defying divine ability. He could kill a 5th heaven martial saint with just a 6th heaven martial emperor. Moreover, even 4 or 5 5th sky martial saints would not be his match. This kind of heaven-defying cultivation strength was something that even 6 sky martial saints could not do. At that moment, countless powerhouses were fearful and afraid. 5 5th firmament martial saints were killed in a short time even though they had joined forces. The other powerhouses were nothing in front of Lingtian. With Lingtian's zither music, the martial saint and martial emperor were killed instantly. Do you know? Lingtian of Freedom King Dynasty did not die in the Heavenly Fire Mountains. Instead, he went into seclusion to break through. After he came out, he single-handedly killed an army of tens of millions, thousands of martial emperors and martial saints, and even 5 5th heaven martial saints were killed in an instant. Aren't you talking nonsense? In Moonsong Kingdom, who doesn't know of Lingtian's reputation? Hush, we can never shout out this name. Be careful of dying. Besides, he is a saint alchemist. No matter if he wants to conquer the world or kill experts, he will always be a saint alchemist. We can't show any disrespect. He concocted the peerless mutated Great Recovery pill, but he didn't take a single one himself and gave all of it to others. Even if he was an opponent, he would treat them equally. How many people in Xianzhou have such boldness? He's the only one. That's right. The pills refined by a super alchemy saint are all peerless. There have never been peerless pills in the divine martial continent. We can only look up to young Master D. He's not someone we can talk about. Even if I'm from Nanping country, Pill Saint Master will always be the expert I admire the most. The Great War has begun. I hope that you can unify the world. In Moonsong Kingdom, Lingtian's legend was spoken of with contempt. In their eyes, Lingtian was a legend himself, a legendary figure. There was no need for others to say that he was also a legend. This legend would be eternal. There were even more rumors about Lingtian as a saint alchemist because his generosity was unmatched. It's obvious that His Majesty, the Carefree Empire, wants to fight against our Moonsong Kingdom. Lingtian's strength is astounding. We can't just sit back and wait for our deaths. In the palace of Moonsong Kingdom, nearly 30 martial saints were gathered in the main hall. King Wanyan sat on the throne, but he was extremely polite to the experts below. The martial saint experts in the hall were either the super experts of the kingdom or the representatives of the middle and upper countries. More importantly, these people were all super existences at the 5th sky of the martial saint realm. The person who spoke was the super genius of Moonsong Kingdom, young Master Yunfeng. He was at the peak of the fifth sky of the martial saint realm and was also the #1 genius of Moonsong Kingdom. Naturally, he was unhappy that Lingtian had outshone him. He would never believe that Lingtian was a match for him even if he was beaten to death. Now that Lingtian was getting stronger and stronger, he had completely become his inner demon. If he did not defeat Lingtian, his cultivation base would never advance. If he could defeat Lingtian, he might be able to break through to the sixth heaven. Your Majesty, young Master Yunfeng is right. The 14 kingdoms are facing the attack of the Xiaoyao dynasty. If we unite the 14 kingdoms, the other kingdoms will face destruction. Yunfeng Nation's super expert Yuan Tian also took a step forward, expressing his agreement with young Master Yunfeng. Although the Heavenly Fire mountain range was only a mountain range in the Heavenly Fire County, Lingtian had razed the mountain range to the ground and taken away its treasures. Skyfire County was the commandery of Yunfeng Kingdom. With their treasures taken away and their mountains destroyed, it was only natural that they wanted to get rid of Lingtian. Moreover, Lingtian's carefree dynasty posed a threat to the other countries. All of a sudden, all the strong people spoke to Wanyan Nu. Although Wanyan Nu's cultivation wasn't high, but the strength of Wanyan family was heaven-defying. It wasn't something that any country or strong people could provoke. Otherwise, the Wanyan family wouldn't have been able to control this Moonsong kingdom. This position required heaven-defying strength to be able to control it. The Wanyan family of Moonsong Kingdom had the #1 and #4 martial saints of the 10 great martial saints. There were also countless super experts and martial saint priests. Their strength was unfathomable. Do you have any ideas or suggestions? When Wanyan Nu saw that all the experts had suggested attacking Qing Xian, he revealed a faint smile on his face. However, his heart was cold. He naturally understood the intentions of these experts. They would definitely mobilize the supreme experts of the kingdom. If Lingtian was killed, the kingdom's strength would be depleted and the other kingdoms would have a chance to fight for the throne. If Lingtian were to defeat the kingdom, the Warwick family would be finished. Even if the victor had a tragic victory in the fierce battle between the two, they would still be able to reap the benefits. I suggest that Your Majesty send out powerhouses and a large army to prepare for a devastating blow to the Qing Xian army before they attack the 14 kingdoms. By then, we'll besiege and kill Lingtian. Even though Lingtian is heaven-defying, he'll still fall if a few of the 10 great martial saints attack him. It was young Master Yunfeng who spoke up and gave his suggestion. The kingdom's army was a destructive existence. Their formations and forces were not something that the other countries could compare to. However, these were not important. What was important was the supreme powerhouses. As long as a few supreme powerhouses were sent, they would be able to kill Lingtian. Once Lingtian was killed, Qing Xian would fall apart. One of the 10 great martial saints, Heavenly Yin Venerable, had fallen, but Lingtian was also severely injured. If the two powerhouses of the 10 great martial saints joined forces, they would definitely be able to kill Lingtian. Furthermore, they only needed to send out countless martial saints to surround Lingtian and exhaust his true essence. They would then kill him when his true essence was exhausted. Explode in all kinds of ways. Chapter 667, Great Burning Heaven Scripture. Even if 2 of the 10 great martial saints join forces, do you think they can kill Lingtian? 11 Wanyan Nu looked at young Master Yunfeng coldly and said. The 10 great martial saints were all top-notch experts of the kingdom. If one of them died, one of them would be gone. Although the 10 great martial saints were not the subordinates of the kingdom, with so many experts supporting them, the kingdom's popularity and status had also increased a lot. If the 10 great martial saints were to fall one after another, it would definitely be a blow to the kingdom. Moreover, although the 10 great martial arts were powerful, they were still stronger than a few fifth sky martial saints working together. Lingtian had killed the combined forces of the martial saints. It would be suicide to send 1 or 2 of the 10 great martial saints. If I kill Lingtian, what reward will His Majesty give me? Young Master Yunfeng smiled and looked at Wan Yannu. You can kill Li Lingtian? That's impossible, young Master Yunfeng. I'm not looking down on you. Although your cultivation is profound, Li Lingtian is no ordinary person. You think you're stronger than the 10 great martial saints? The 9th rank of the 10 great martial saints, Heavenly Yi Knight, has fallen. Can you kill him? If you can kill Li Lingtian, I'll give you 10 billion. Me too. If you kill Li Lingtian, I'll give you 10 billion as well. 10 billion, I'll bid 10 billion too. Instantly, the super experts in the hall looked at young Master Yunfeng in shock. They understood that young Master Yunfeng was setting up a trap just now. His goal was to get him to kill Li Lingtian so that Wan Yannu would benefit from it. Despite encountering such a situation, they did not point it out. Instead, they goaded young Master Yunfeng into fighting Li Lingtian with a bet of benefits. Whether young Master Yunfeng did it intentionally or unintentionally, they all wanted young Master Yunfeng to be cannon fodder. What benefits does young Master Yunfeng want? Tell me about it. As long as you can kill Li Lingtian, I'll consider your conditions. Wan Yannu was startled. He had a faint smile on his face. At first, he thought that young Master Yunfeng wanted to scheme against the experts of the kingdom, but now he understood that young Master Yunfeng wanted to obtain a treasure of the kingdom. If it could really kill Li Lingtian, a treasure was nothing. After all, Li Lingtian was too powerful and posed a great threat to the kingdom. If they were to kill Li Lingtian, it would not be a big deal for them to give away their worldly possessions. All right, I'll say it. I hope your majesty can consider it. If I can kill Li Lingtian, I hope that your majesty will allow me to study the great burning heavens mantra for half a year. Young Master Yunfeng said lightly. His face was calm, but his eyes were looking at Wan Yannu, wanting to know the change in Wan Yannu's expression. What? You want the great burning heavens scripture? Young Master Yunfeng, are you joking? Wan Yannu stood up with a furious look on his face. He looked at young Master Yunfeng coldly as if he wanted to kill someone. As a king, he was actually angered by a 5th sky martial saint. How angry must he be? Great burning sky scripture? Young Master Yunfeng wants the king's great burning sky scripture. The great burning heaven scripture is the Wanyan family's most powerful cultivation method, a top-notch heaven-grade cultivation method. Young Master Yunfeng wants to cultivate the great burning heaven scripture, right? The great burning heaven scripture is one of the 3 top-tier heaven-ranked cultivation techniques in Moonsong Kingdom. Young Master Yunfeng has already cultivated one of them. Could it be that young Master Yunfeng still has the energy to comprehend the second one? Young Master Yunfeng is indeed the #1 genius of Moonsong Kingdom. Instantly, not only was Wan Yannu furious, but the other powerhouses were also incomparably shocked. They all knew about the Wanyan family's cultivation method. With this cultivation method, the Wanyan family had nurtured countless super experts. The 1st and 4th ranked experts of the 10 martial saints also cultivated the great burning sky scripture. This cultivation method was definitely the most precious treasure of the Wanyan family. It was as important as the throne. Now, young Master Yunfeng wanted to comprehend the great burning sky scripture for half a year. Wasn't this too much? In fact, in the eyes of the strong, this cultivation technique was even more important than the throne. After all, cultivating this cultivation technique could give one the chance to become a strong person and increase their strength. A terrifying cultivation could ignore royal authority. I just want to see the great burning sky scripture. Do the martial arts methods in this world have to stick to the rules? If I comprehend the great burning sky scripture, I can also give the Yun family's ice and snow summoning technique to the Wanyan family to comprehend for half a year. Young Master Yunfeng said indifferently, completely ignoring Wan Yannu's anger and the instigation of other experts. He wanted the great burning sky scripture, so he naturally wouldn't care about anything else. In his eyes, no matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he could not escape his array Dao and all sorts of heaven-defying offensive techniques. Is that true? Wan Yannu was shocked. Initially, He was furious, but he remembered that young Master Yunfeng had gone to deal with Li Lingtian. He would only obtain the Great Burning Heavens manual after killing Li Lingtian. If they were to be killed by Li Lingtian, all these would be empty talk. Moreover, if young Master Yunfeng comprehended the Great Burning Sky scripture, the Yun family's ice and snow summoning technique would also be given to the Wanyan family to comprehend. Such a good thing naturally couldn't be missed. Of course, everyone here is watching. Does His Majesty not trust the Yun family? Isn't it just half a year? As long as I comprehend it, I will let anyone in the Wanyan family comprehend the ice summoning skill for half a year. Besides, I still have to deal with Li Lingtian. However, I'll need the help of others. After all, Li Lingtian's strength is too heaven-defying. I'll need to consume his true essence to see through his methods. Young Master Yunfeng said seriously, looking at Wanyan Nu. At the same time, he looked at the other experts, IO billion. There were 30 experts here, so it was 300 billion. Even if spirit stones were nothing to experts like them, they could never have too many spirit stones. Alright, I promise you that I will give you 100 martial saints. Martial Saint Qingmi will go with you. However, we have to kill Li Lingtian in the 14 kingdoms. We'll then take advantage of the situation to destroy the Qingxian kingdom's army. Wanyan Nu pondered for a moment and finally agreed. Alright, it's settled then. This is a memory stone. When the time comes, we won't have to worry about going back on our word with this evidence. Everyone, give me the 10 billion. Young Master Yunfeng said loudly. A memory stone appeared in his hand and he looked at the other experts. All the powerhouses had no choice but to take out their spiritual stones. It was only 10 billion. If they could kill Li Lingtian, they would earn back the 10 billion in no time. Young Master Yunfeng took the spirit stones and left. The hall was silent. Li Lingtian cultivated in peace in the Qingxian kingdom's imperial palace. The army outside had already been reorganized and would march out to destroy the 14 kingdoms at Li Lingtian's command. 10 days had passed since then. In 10 days, Li Lingtian's cultivation base had stabilized at the 6th heaven and his cultivation base was improving rapidly. The silver-winged flying dragon's injuries had already been healed in the divine dragon ring. Moreover, its cultivation base had been increasing continuously while cultivating in the dragon energy. Li Lingtian adjusted his cultivation base and divine power to their peak state before he left the room with a faint smile on his face. He had encountered too many things during this period of time, but his cultivation had also broken through, and his strength had increased greatly. Moreover, he had gained a lot of experience from fighting with a few super experts. This experience could not be bought with money. On this day, Li Lingtian brought Long De into the array. This was because he had gone to the Heavenly Fire mountain range recently. After he returned, he had to recuperate. After the final battle, he hadn't gone into the array. Although General Long had told him about the Wargod, he was still worried. This was because the Wargod was a trump card, and he couldn't afford to screw it up at a critical moment. If this Wargod was truly built, it would be almost invincible. It could even kill 5th or 6th Sky Martial Saints. This subordinate greets young master. This subordinate greets young Master D. Li Lingtian's arrival excited countless array masters and weapon refining grandmasters. All of them saluted Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was undoubtedly a godlike existence in their hearts. He had witnessed Li Lingtian's strength some time ago. His knowledge of array Dao, alchemy Dao, and weapon refining was unmatched. How is it? Li Lingtian waved his hand and asked after the group had stood up. Looking at the Wargod that was 2,000 meters long, 500 meters wide, and 100 meters tall, Li Lingtian asked calmly. This Wargod was also silver in color, but it was emitting a destructive aura. Just from the aura alone, it was not something the Wargod of the past could compare to. The two of them were not on the same level at all. However, he did not know the true power yet because there were many final formations inside that he needed to deal with. Young Master, the Wargod has been completed. It can be inspected by Young Master. Grandmaster Weapon Refinement Wuxia Tian looked at Lingtian and spoke respectfully with a serious expression. To him, building the Wargod was a complete breakthrough. A breakthrough in the path of refining allowed him to truly witness the power beyond the path of refining. Therefore, when he was supervising the forging, he was always striving for perfection. There could not be the slightest flaw. Even if it was a little luster or a little pattern, he had to completely improve it and not leave behind the slightest flaw. Young Master, the construction of the Wargod is complete. Everything can be inspected by Young Master. The only thing left is the built-in formation. I need Young Master's guidance. I don't dare to make a move rashly. The Holy Array Master Wu Jizi replied respectfully. As a Holy Array Master, he understood Lingtian's strength even better. Everything had been completely resolved. Even all kinds of defenses had been set up, but the final attack and killing array had not been used. On the Wargod, there were a total of 108,000 arrays. These arrays were all cast by him, another Pill Saint, and all the array masters and geniuses. Alright, I'll go take a look. Lingtian's face revealed a satisfied expression as he nodded. He then walked toward the Wargod. Wu Lizi and Wuxia Tian led the way. Along the way, Wu Jizi told Lingtian about the power and construction of the array formation whenever they encountered it. He observed the change in Lingtian's eyes to see if there was any need to correct it. Whenever he encountered a refining job, Wuxia Tian would tell Lingtian about the problems he encountered. Lingtian told them how to solve the problems they encountered, how to correct them, and how to improve their power. But along the way, the Wargod was very satisfied. He was satisfied with the flaws he encountered. Chapter 668, The Wargod and the Array Path. Finally, Lingtian arrived at the depths of the Wargod. This place was also the core of the Wargod. The position of the killing array was also the place where the Wargod was controlled. The entire control room was 50 meters long and 20 meters wide. There were countless precise arrays inside. Those who could enter had to pass the special array test. Because outsiders couldn't enter this place. At the same time, all cultivation bases were suppressed. As long as there was even the slightest damage to the Wargod, there would be a destructive restriction that would directly imprison the person who damaged the Wargod. These restrictions and arrays were meant for the Wargod's safety, and Lingtian had to personally create them. Lingtian extended his divine consciousness alone and inspected all the restriction spells and array formations. In front of his array Dao, nothing could escape his eyes. As long as there was the slightest problem, he would be able to see it. There were 3,000 formations here and the formations were interconnected. Lingtian nodded in satisfaction after he finished inspecting the formations. He was satisfied with the formations here and cast a series of incantation gestures into them. Lingtian's aura could be sensed from the inside. As long as the Wargod posed the slightest threat, it would activate the automatic destruction mechanism. The destruction mechanism was not meant to destroy the Wargod but to destroy the person who was attacking the Wargod from within. The few of you, call those with talent over. Lingtian told Wenji Zi and the others that he was going to cast the array here so they could learn from it. There were only 2 sacred array masters and more than 10 array masters. Since there was enough space here, he would let more people learn. This subordinate will call someone up now. Wu Jizi was extremely excited. He knew that Lingtian was going to create this array personally and he could learn from it. At the same time, he was extremely touched. An array like this was usually a secret of a holy array master and would not be shown to others. However, Lingtian allowed them to watch and learn. This meant that Lingtian regarded them as his confidants or at least trusted them. At the same time, he was happy for the other array Dao geniuses. It was indeed a blessing to be able to witness Lingtian's array formation. After saying that, he handed a list to an array master beside him and asked him to call them up according to the names on the list. Soon, more than 40 array masters and geniuses arrived on the Wargod. When they arrived, they were all extremely excited. Greetings, young Master D. The 40-odd martial emperor realm array grandmasters and geniuses bowed respectfully to Lingtian. Then, he quietly sat aside and watched Lingtian from afar, waiting for him to cast his array Dao and set up the array formation. The array Dao is the most mysterious Dao in the world. The world itself is a Dao, but we don't have enough control over it. The so-called formation is a structure between heaven and earth. It is also the most ordinary Dao. Only when the formation is used to guide the heaven and earth, when it is activated, that is the great Dao. Between the heaven and earth, all the elements return to their roots. The Dao of formations, the Dao of alchemy, the Dao of crafts, and all the other Daos are all within the 5 elements heaven and earth. As long as they don't exceed the 3 realms and 5 elements, then everything in this world will be restricted by the Dao of formations and the Dao. We cultivate the Dao, and when we master it, we are also a Dao. Lingtian was pleased when he saw all the geniuses doing their job obediently like obedient babies. These people were all overlords and experts in the outside world, but in front of him, they were extremely respectful, like obedient children. Even the 2 holy array masters listened with great interest. At the same time, a few geniuses and grandmasters revealed expressions of realization. This was because they were only specialized in array Dao and were restricted to a limit. They could not see outside at all. This was what it meant to be an onlooker. Now that Lingtian had explained the original reasoning, it was as if they had been enlightened and understood everything in an instant. It was as if there was a bright path in front of them. These principles were the most basic, but they had been forgotten and ignored by them. It was just like the 5 elements martial souls in this world. Most powerhouses valued some mystical martial souls and did not value the 5 elements at all. However, now that Lingtian had mastered the 5 elements, it was equivalent to controlling the world. For the array Dao, a small array is limited to a certain object, a large array is connected to the world, a divine array is connected to the world, and a formation is connected to the world. All the formations in the world can be connected to the world. Ancient divine arrays, and ancient forbidden divine arrays are all connected to the world. There are even formations that control the great Dao of heaven and earth in this world. Those are the experts who have transcended the 3 realms and 5 elements. The experts can turn the world upside down, burn the sky and boil the sea, and create their own world and space. Today, I will build a divine array and use the power of heaven and earth for my own use. Lingtian activated his divine consciousness and took out countless mystical materials. These materials were extremely precious and were specifically used to create a super divine array. These materials weren't used even when he was building the Wargod last time. Naturally, he had to use them for the strengthened version of the Wargod this time. After Lingtian finished speaking, everyone was shocked beyond words. In the past, according to Lingtian's description, they had only used small and large arrays. What was the concept of Lingtian creating a divine array now? At the same time, he also thought about the power of the Wargod after it appeared. It would definitely shock the world. Following that, Lingtian reminded the array masters of the things to take note of as he explained. At the same time, he quickly spread his 10 fingers and cast a series of hand seals. He continuously fused the materials into it. The fusion of the array formation and the materials shocked everyone. In the end, Lingtian shouted at Wuxia and the other 2. The 3 of them joined forces to cast the most destructive offensive formation. Although they were both offensive formations, this one was a god-level formation that even surpassed a divine formation. After 3 hours, Lingtian and the other 2 were drenched in sweat. Fortunately, the array was activated. The array masters and geniuses were shocked beyond words. They were known as geniuses and grandmasters, but they were nothing in front of Lingtian. Hush! When Lingtian came to a stop, he was on the verge of collapse. However, an excited smile appeared on his face. 9 palaces 8 trigrams killing formation completed. He said this calmly, indicating that the Wargod had been successfully built. Everyone was excited. The success of the Wargod would shake the world. This 9 palaces 8 trigrams killing formation had a total of 1 main attack position, 108 and auxiliary attack positions. The main kill cannon could use the inner cores of Tier 7, Tier 8, and Tier 9 demonic beasts, as well as the inner cores of sea beasts. However, if he wanted to use the inner cores of Tier 10 demonic beasts, Lingtian would have to upgrade the array formation. The other auxiliary attack cannons could use the inner cores of 5th, 6th, and 7th rank demon beasts. As long as he had an inner core, an ordinary martial saint powerhouse would be instantly killed. Lingtian left the Wargod and left the array formation with Longda. He ordered his men to collect the inner cores of the demonic beasts and sea beasts, mainly the Tier 7 and Tier 8 inner cores. Before the Wargod was built, Lingtian had already instructed his men to prepare for it. However, now that the battle had begun, the monster beast inner core was being consumed at an extremely fast rate. Naturally, they did not want to run out of inner cores during the battle. At the same time, he was also collecting supreme-grade spiritual stones everywhere because the power of a supreme-grade spiritual stone and an 8th level inner core was twice as strong. With such power, even a 5th or 6th sky martial saint would be able to kill him. Young master, is the Wargod completed? Qjng Ling was puzzled when she saw that Lingtian had returned but did not see the Wargod take off. Technically speaking, the Wargod would appear in the sky after it was completed. He would have to experiment with it then. However, Lingtian had gone into the array formation specifically and did not see any movement from the Wargod when he returned. The Wargod has been completed, but we can't take it out now. We'll only take it out when the war starts. By then, we'll wipe out all 14 countries. Lingtian smiled. He knew that Qjng Ling and the others were curious. Of course, he wouldn't spread these things. However, Qingling and the others were his women, so there was no need to hide anything. I see. Big brother, how much stronger do you think the Wargod is this time? Ge patted his chest and put on a reassuring look. He looked so cute that the other girls laughed. The Wargod in the past could kill martial emperors. This time, the Wargod can kill martial emperors and martial saints in an instant. However, it requires a large amount of materials. Lingtian smiled as well. This little girl was getting more and more charming. After saying that, he returned to his room to rest. He had just built the final array formation and had indeed consumed a lot. He had to go back and rest for a while. However, when he entered the room, he said something. Pass down my order. Attack the 14 kingdoms as quickly as possible. By the time Lingtian finished speaking, he had already entered the room. The 14 countries weren't strong, so he had to kill them first. After unifying the 14 kingdoms, he would then fight against the other middle and upper kingdoms before unifying the kingdom. He did not need to think that the kingdom would send the other countries to fight Lingtian while the kingdom would clean up the mess. While Lingtian was resting, the order was passed down. The army of tens of millions marched toward the 14 kingdoms. The newly incorporated army was not placed at the forefront as it would affect the morale of the army. He had to put the strongest army at the front. That way, he would be invincible. The Xiaoyao Empire's army would be in a stalemate with the other armies. They would either not attack or they would be invincible. This was an imposing manner. Instantly, the kingdom was shocked. Although countless armies, kingdoms, and experts knew that Freedom King dynasty would attack the 14 kingdoms, they didn't expect it to be so fast. Even if it was within their expectations, it was still shocking to them. After all, it was the Qjng Xian kingdom that attacked the 14 kingdoms. Exploding. Seeking monthly votes, recommendation votes, book reviews, and tips. Chapter 669, Strengthened Wargod. Although the 3 legions didn't have as many people as before, their morale was much more stable. The morale of the army soared and the momentum of the army soared wherever they went. This time, all the troops left with a mood to vent their frustrations because the 14 kingdoms had joined forces to attack Qingxian. If not for Li Lingtian's appearance, Qingxian would have been destroyed. Li Lingtian did not even want to bother with the army's expedition. With the 3 legions present and countless martial saints, it would not be a problem for the entire army to attack a country. In this way, they would be defeated one by one. However, what he did not expect was that the millions of soldiers would encounter a powerful obstruction the moment they arrived at the middle-sized Mingfeng nation. Moreover, the other party was extremely powerful. There were more than 100 martial saints. Compared to the Qingxian kingdom's army, it was much stronger. This time, a martial saint directly went out to fight. Although they were not targeting the army, the martial saints in the enemy army could easily kill the martial emperors and martial saints of Qingxian kingdom. A medium-sized country with over 100 martial saints shocked martial saint Ming Luo and the others. Hence, they quickly relayed the news to Qingxian and requested Li Lingtian's assistance. Li Lingtian had just recovered his true essence and was in the midst of cultivating when he received an urgent report of the battle at the front. What happened? Li Lingtian asked seriously as he looked at Tang Qingyue and the others in the courtyard. Under normal circumstances, no one would disturb him when he was cultivating. However, Tang Qingyue had called him out this time. Something must have happened. The army in front is in trouble. There are more than 100 martial saints from Mingfeng nation, and there are also many super martial saints. The army is heavily injured. Tang Qingyue briefly explained the voice transmission she had received before she turned to look at Li Lingtian. In fact, there was no need to explain the situation clearly to understand the situation ahead. They had either encountered a heaven-defying expert or the army of Moonsong Kingdom. If they encountered the army of the Moonsong Kingdom, Martial Saint Ming Luo wouldn't send a message back. The only possibility left was that they had encountered a heaven-defying expert. Get ready, we're heading to Mingfeng nation. Since that's the case, we can only unify all the countries. It's impossible to cultivate in peace now. Li Lingtian's eyes shone with a sharp glint as he spoke indifferently. His entire body was exuding a murderous aura. He had originally planned to cultivate in peace, but now it seemed that it was simply impossible. Since he was not allowed to cultivate, he would just let them destroy it. Li Lingtian instructed Tang Qingyue and the others to pack up while he walked into the array formation. This time, he would bring everyone with him to the war, and use the Wargod as well. Inside the array, Li Lingtian gathered the array master and the weapon refinery master together and told them his plan. Now that the Wargod was in use, there were 10 array masters and 10 forging masters maintaining the Wargod. The others stayed here to build the Wargod. The materials for the Wargod would be sent in continuously. However, they were free to go out. It was just that he had to come back after a certain period of time. He had to go through countless tests. Upon receiving Li Lingtian's order, Wu Jizi and the others took the initiative to stay behind as he was tasked to oversee the construction of the Wargod. For grandmasters like them, their entire life's interest was in arrays and crafting. The fame and fortune outside didn't matter anymore. They might as well make the Wargod even more perfect. Then, Wu Jizi found 10 formation path grandmasters and Wei Yuetian found 10 forging grandmasters. Li Lingtian personally boarded the Wargod and activated it. Boom! Boom! A series of explosions sounded, and the entire southern mountain city was shocked. This explosion was definitely not an attack from an expert. It was a terrifying and mysterious existence that brought an unknown threat to people. At this moment, a shocking pressure soared into the sky and spread throughout Southern Peak Great City. Countless experts felt death and destruction in front of this pressure. What's that? What a powerful ship. What is this? It's actually so big. What a terrifying pressure. It's actually so powerful. What a powerful aura of death and destruction. I wonder what this is. Could it be some destructive treasure? In the sky, the silver figure of the war god appeared. It was 2,000 meters long, 500 meters wide, and 100 meters tall. This huge existence immediately shocked all the experts because they had never seen such a thing before. They did not know if this was an attack treasure or a flying ship. If it was a spaceship, there was no such powerful spaceship in this world. This silver monster was 100 times larger than the largest spaceship. Moreover, the aura of destruction and death was definitely not as simple as a spaceship. Just this aura alone could crush countless powerhouses below the martial emperor realm. Wargod, Wargod. Wargod, Wargod. Destroy the world and sweep the world. Wargod, destroy the world. Wargod, sweep the world. Inside the palace's array formation, all the array masters and blacksmiths were extremely excited as they watched the huge Wargod rise into the sky. This was because this was the Wargod that they had personally created. They were extremely happy. At first the Wargod was on the ground, so they couldn't see its true appearance. Now that it was in the air, this shocking aura and pressure shocked them. The experts cheered at the same time, and their auras were shocking. Outside the Imperial Palace, the experts of Southern Mountain City all knew the name of this silver monster. It looked like it was definitely a powerful and destructive treasure, a treasure of the army. Seeing such a powerful pressure being used in an army, it would be devastating. Is this the Wargod that young Master D created? Young Master D created a Wargod like this to sweep the world. It's indeed powerful. With such a killing weapon, what else can we resist? It's simply invincible. Yeah, with this Wargod, we are invincible. Everyone was discussing animatedly, their eyes revealing looks of admiration and envy. Only Lingtian was capable of creating such a treasure. There had never been such a powerful offensive treasure in the history of the divine martial continent. Who else could create such a treasure other than Lingtian? Wargod, Wargod. Sweep the Black Continent and unify the world. Wargod, destroy the world. Wargod, sweep the world. For a moment, countless experts and martial artists in Southern Peak City cheered. The appearance of the Wargod signified the arrival of the Carefree Dynasty's true era of competition. In the past, young Master D had always kept a low profile. Now that the Wargod had appeared, it meant that the real war was about to begin. It was no longer the same as before. As long as Lingtian was around, he was invincible. Swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, the Wargod released a huge beam of light. The beam of light was empty. The pillar of light shone into the palace, and the endless spiritual chi between heaven and earth quickly condensed. Immediately, Tang Qingyue and the others entered the light pillar and quickly followed the light pillar towards the Wargod. They didn't need to fly at all. Moreover, the pillar of light carried a destructive aura. If they wanted to attack from the outside, they would simply be courting death. The light pillar was an array path created by Lingtian. It could bring people up from the ground. Even in the air, it was protected by the light pillar. Naturally, it would not be attacked. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. This was the first time they had seen such a magical thing. This was like a legendary mighty person's method, extremely magical. Even the array master and weapon refinement master inside the array were stunned by the light beam. They had personally created the array and the Wargod, but the last few arrays were cast by Lingtian. He did not expect Lingtian's array Dao to reach such a level that he could easily create a divine array. They had never heard of such an array formation before, so naturally, they had never seen it before. The more Lingtian behaved like this, the more everyone admired and respected him. Only the strong respected the strong and heroes cherished heroes. Tang Qingyue and the others disappeared from the Wargod and came to Lingtian's side. Lingtian immediately passed down an order. The Wargod let out another roar. The massive and heavy Wargod was like a moving mountain at this moment, but it tore through the void like a shooting star and disappeared into the horizon in an instant. At the edge of the horizon, one could still vaguely see the shattered space of destruction. What a fast speed! What terrifying power! Young Master D personally led the army and swept the world. With young Master Dean the War God, no one in the world can stop them. Let's go and take a look. Even if we don't join the army of the Xiaoyao Empire, we can still contribute to the Xiaoyao Empire. You're right. Let's go. Seeing the War God disappear into the sky, all the powerhouses quickly followed the Wargod's aura. The more they got to the end, the more shocked these martial honors, martial emperors, and martial saints were. No matter how fast they sped up, they would never be able to catch up to the War God. When they realized this, they were all shocked. The War God was so terrifying, and it had such speed. There was nothing in the world that could stop it. On the War God, Lingtian had a faint smile on his face. This enhanced version of the War God, be it in terms of power, speed, or facilities, was much more powerful than the previous War God. Especially this speed, it was simply godly. It was not inferior to the speed of a martial emperor or a martial saint at all. When the time came for the war, he could use the War God to dominate the entire battlefield. It would definitely be a trump card. Moreover, the War God had not been activated to its maximum speed. If it was activated to its maximum speed, even a martial saint would be left far behind. A single War God was enough to dominate a kingdom. When the other War Gods were completed, they could form a fleet of warships. Great wars were the victor's treasury, and endless wealth would roll in. The more wealth he had, the more War Gods he could build. If that was the case, sweeping through the entire Xian continent wouldn't be empty talk. Starting today, 5 chapters a day, starting at 10 in the morning, every 2 days. The update was at 8 o'clock in the evening. The more monthly votes and recommendation votes you have, the more tips you give and the more rewards you get. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.